Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. That's not Tuesday. It's Monday. I've said that before.
Well, it's because we used to do this. We used to do this on Tuesdays, but now it's family night.
DJ, can you fix my audio? Yeah.
Now it's family night. You just got to remember, family night is and Wise Guys is synonymous.
I've been on the road for 16 days of the last 23 with baseball. I'm not even sure what day it is, but I do know that Wise Guys is on Monday, and so here we are. Welcome to everybody jumping on the live stream.
You should be completely rested because you've been staying in posh hotels all around the country.
If you only knew, you do know that. No, that's true.
Yeah, I know that's a big lie. So welcome, right?
Yeah, #1 live stream, BYU Sports Talk Show in the entire world. Follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat, as we always do. Hit the subscribe button. That's awesome. Makes us look good. It's free. We're also live on Facebook. We're live on Twitch. And that's because we're set up where you can interact with us and ask us questions, and we can get you on the show. And, of course, our home base is ysguys.com.
Yeah, on ysguys.com. Make sure you subscribe there. Get our weekly email that you and I get. It's going to give you a heads up on what's coming up. It will also send you an email that has highlights that you can click on the links, and you can go to shows of the past with great interviews with folks like Steve Young and Danny Ainge and Wally Joyner, Marie Osmond, Jimmer Fred. I mean, you name it. It's a list of who's who, and you can kind of scroll through. Don't forget Libby Lloyd. That's the one you got to click on.
Libby Lloyd's in there for
She's
sure.
in there. My daughter Libby. Kyle Van Noy, Sherry Dew's on there. I loved our interview with Sherry. So make sure you do that. ysguys.com, subscribe, make sure you get our weekly email.
So last week at this time, I was on the BYU baseball bus as we were pulling into Vegas, and we needed to get to our hotel so I could get to my room so I could join the live stream.
Right.
So I'm watching Wise Guys, your interview with David Nixon. I'm watching on the bus.
That's right.
As our bus driver took one wrong turn after another to where we were trying to get.
And your old town, too.
For the love, I was like, let me take the bus. I'll get us there. And it took forever, but Nix was great. And then Noah Hartsock was awesome. I wrote a story about Noah from our interview in the Deseret News. And now here we go with tournament week. And BYU football. Max Hall's going to join us because the alumni game is a week from Friday on BYU TV. I just started doing some notes.
Fun. Yeah.
You and I will be on the call. We're going to talk to Max. Remember, he got hurt last year. We're going to talk about the injury, his comeback, what restrictions his wife has placed on him.
Because there's no doctor's going to do any restrictions. It's going to be his wife that's going to do this.
So Max in just a few minutes.
Right. And how about TJ Haws going to be in studio? He's going to be sitting right next to me here. We had a chance to work with TJ for the first time in studio on our game day show for college basketball. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Very relaxed, but we were really impressed. So we've got him coming on the show. It's Big 12 tournament week. Things get going tomorrow in the Big 12 tournament, right?
Yeah, it's right here.
So, and the women's tournament is finishing up as we speak, right?
Yeah.
And so TJ coming on the show. We'll roll out the road to success for BYU in this Big 12 tournament. We've all been kind of studying up, and we've seen the league this year, so we know what to expect. So we're going to have a little chat with TJ about what BYU needs to do. He's played in a few conference tournaments in his day.
He started every game he played in, 133 at BYU. He is a phenomenal point guard, and we've had good point guard play today this year. We'll talk about that. But TJ could hit the three. He could create a shot. And he could dish the basketball.
Yeah, and I told TJ, I saw him at a game at the beginning of the season, and I had never told him this, so I sought him out to go tell him that overwhelmingly his last season, when we would talk to opposing coaches for the games that we were going to do, as soon as we asked them the question about scouting report, like what do you need to do, it would always start with, we got to figure out a way to stay in front of TJ Haws longer. Like, it's impossible to stay in front of him. He breaks your defense down. He gets 2 feet in the paint. He starts creating rotations. He's so good at finding the open guy. If you don't come over and help on him on time, he's going to score. If you foul him, he's going to make free throws. He's just such a good player, and he's impossible to stay in front of. Coach after coach after coach. I feel like he's one of the most underrated players ever to come through BYU, because who better to give you a compliment than opposing coaches? And we consistently heard that feedback every time we did a game. And I told TJ that, and he goes, wow, that was really nice of those coaches. And I go, that's That's their scouting report. They weren't even being nice. They were just speaking truth. So
the video never lies.
That's right.
Hey, Glenn from the Philippines is with us as we check in on the live stream. Michael from Beaumont, Texas. I saw Henderson, Nevada up there. Let's see. Farmington, Utah is in the house, and a couple of Arizonas, Henderson, Las Vegas. And it'll just grow and grow.
Yeah, Glenn Newman, always from the Philippines, right? Always in from the Philippines. And we appreciate that. Jan Gardner, Mesa, Arizona. Ruthie in the house, always in the house. We're so grateful for all of you that join us on the live stream. Hey, we're grateful for everyone. Even if you don't join us on the live stream, but you download the podcast every week and you take it out on your bike ride with you, we're grateful for that too. And we hope you enjoy the show.
There's Robbie from Dallas. They're ready for the tournament that's over in Kansas City. Basketball coming up. Let's jump into football ahead of our interview with Max Hall. Spring practice is, believe it or not, we're almost done with spring practice.
Yeah, it's been going kind of quietly.
There's so much other things going on.
Well, and with the basketball teams' tremendous success, there's been a lot of focus over on basketball in this first season in the Big 12, and it's kind of taken the focus away. And I think Kalani is okay with that for the fact that they're a couple weeks deep into spring ball and things are falling into place. And so, it's all good for them to quietly go through spring practice, right? They don't mind that at all.
And we're hearing some good things about some certain players, and we're also hearing that no one's run away with the quarterback battle.
Right.
That's going to be interesting. Pros and cons from both Jake Retzlaff and Gary Bohannon. We're going to get out there. I'm going to get a chance to be at practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
And at least see firsthand how throws are going and this and that. We're all very curious about that.
And for Gary, it's going to be an interesting thing. We had Gary on the show. We immediately, you become a fan of his when you just talk to him, and you do Jake as well. Mm-hmm. They're just such good young men. So you're rooting for them to do well. You want Gary to be back from that shoulder injury. Total he's 100% healthy, but remember, he hasn't thrown the volume of throws that you need to throw to be super sharp. Because he had surgery and he's been rehabbing that thing. And so I don't expect him to be as good as he's going to be right out of the chutes and run away with the job and look like a guy that's been starting for the last 2 years because he has been hurt. So it's going to take some time. And then Jake, who was healthy, but is just still kind of young in this offense. And it's interesting. Bohannon's the new guy, but he's actually run this offense.
Right.
Because at Baylor, his starting year, they ran this offense, same terminology and everything under Jeff Grimes. So Bohannon might have a little more experience in the offense. That's a weird thing to say. The transfer has more experience in the offense.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting these next couple of weeks and into the summer. And that's going to take us to our Cougarboard question of the week. By the way, the Mackeys are checking in from Montana. Nice to have you guys with us on the Wise Guys tonight. So our Cougarboard question of the week, if you're not familiar with Cougarboard, we talk about them all the time. It's the largest online community of BYU fans. That's their logo right there. See back. Like if Brigham Young had
back behind you.
If Brigham Young had a cell phone, he'd be on Cougarboard. That's what that's saying. Anyway, thousands of posts daily. Our question of the week comes from Dilbert, one of their insider subscribers. And it's for you, Blaine. Is there anyone on the football team that's standing out in spring camp that might not be on most fans' radar?
Yeah, so to me, that is an obvious answer. Not obvious to everyone because that's the question. Who's not the obvious one? Like you expect to hear about this group of wide receivers coming back or one of the running backs coming back looking great or, hey, this quarterback or that quarterback's look great or hey, Talon Allfree back at free safety.
Yeah.
It's not, they're all fine. They're all playing really well. That receiving core is really, really good. It's Jack Kelly.
The linebacker.
Jack Kelly, to me, is the guy that everybody in the fall is going to go, whoa, where did this dude come from? It's the transfer from Weber State. Love that he's an in-state kid. He's a Kearns High grad. Went up to Weber State, 6'2", 235-pound redshirt junior that's just a thumper. Like just a guy that plays downhill and is just going to smack people. Think Max Tooley, 20 pounds heavier. And you know how hard Max would hit people. I kept worrying Max was going to knock himself out because he played so aggressively.
And sometimes he did.
Yeah, and so Jack's a thicker version of Max Tooley. He plays downhill. He's very physical. He loves contact. But here's the big key for him. He's played in Jay Hill's defense for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do. He knows how Jay calls plays. He knows the terminology. So he's one of the most experienced people on this football team in running this defense. So to have him at linebacker, he's one of the most dynamic defenders in all of FCS football the last couple of years. And he's having a huge impact already. You watch, mark my words, come fall, he's going to be the ooh guy. Like,
that's the ooh guy.
He'll come up and make a hit and everybody go, ooh, ow. He's going to smack people around and he's going to make up a lot of tackles.
That's important because once our linebackers got hurt last year, we weren't very good at linebacker. We weren't experienced. And think about when West Virginia and Iowa State had their way with us. Ben Bywater was out. John Nelson was out on the front line. And we had a lot of new guys in place. Let's see, we had another linebacker banged up, and we couldn't stop him.
Yeah, they went
out and got a bunch.
The run became difficult to stop. Yeah. I'm hearing good things about Jack. I'm also hearing really good things about Ace Kafusi, who's put on some weight in the offseason. He was a freshman last year that they really were high on. He's built up his frame a little bit, and he's playing extremely well, more comfortable. And remember, you get the two guys you just mentioned that really hurt not to have will be back full go this fall. John Nelson inside on defense on that D line, who really is a solid player there. And then you're going to get Ben Bywater back. We had Ben on this show. A healthy Ben Bywater, he's led this team in tackles for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so you have him. Now you add a Jack Kelly. You add an Ace Kafusi, who's 6'4", 6'5", and with a ton of range. All of a sudden, there's some really dynamic defenders. And then remember, BYU's two starting safeties, Talon Alfrey and Micah Harper, never made it to game one last year. They were both kind of preseason all Big 12 guys. Micah was a preseason first team all Big 12 guy. And Talon has the potential to be an all Big 12 guy. Played a bunch of snaps the year before as a return missionary freshman. They're back. And so now Mike is not 100% yet because he's still coming back from that knee injury, but he should be 100% by fall. Talon Alfrey's 100% right now and playing and understands that defense, and he's a big physical cat coming down from free safety, can also play strong safety. To me, BYU looks like they're going to take a giant leap on defense, and they weren't bad last year in the league. I feel like this is a team that moves up into the top 3 or 4 in the league in defense, maybe even into the top 2 in the league in defense if they stay healthy. And that means more wins for me.
Yeah. That's we'll get a look at those guys tomorrow too, and very excited to see what they got cooking over there. So there's the Cougarboard question of the week. So Jack Kelly, everyone just circle Jack Kelly, and we'll see how he develops. One of the cool things about spring football is the alumni game. This year it's being played at the old Provo High School, which BYU bought a few years ago because Lavelle Edwards Stadium's getting a new surface, natural grass still, but a new surface. And so we're over there. So in this past week, the lineups were released for the alumni game, which you and I will call on BYU TV. March 22nd, that's a week from Friday. It's 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 Eastern. And the quarterback matchup, we're going to hear from one of them here in a few minutes. Max Hall, Jay Keeps coming back.
Yeah.
James Lark.
Those are one team's quarterbacks.
That's one team. And then Riley Nelson, Jackson Brown, and Brandon Doman are on the other side. It's a Royal. It's against the Navy. And Max is on the Navy side. Riley, Doman, those guys are on the Royal side. Yeah,
tradition. Like, you get Brandon and Riley. They're the traditional side.
The key is the receivers and who has the youngest receivers. And I think that's definitely shifting with some of these guys.
And James Lark and I were helping my son Kellen move. James lived right next door to Kellen. And somehow we got in the conversation of who's the greatest backup quarterback of all time at BYU. Like James and I were arguing with one another. And so it's going back and forth. And, James had some really phenomenal games. And then I had to trump him. I just had to trump him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how many national championships did you win as a backup quarterback? and that you played
whenever the ring comes out,
he's just like I had to pull the ring out, and then he just backed off. Yeah. Then James just backed off.
He had nowhere to go.
It trumps everything.
Key receivers on the Royal team, Aliva Hifo and Neil Pau. On the Navy squad, you got Cody Hoffa and Mitch Matthews, and then Johnny Harleen and Dennis Pitta.
Wow.
I don't know how mobile Harleen and Pitta are. this year after a full year. But I'll tell you what, Hoffman and Matthews can still get around.
Well, here's the thing. Aleva, too, can still really run. We saw that last year. And I see Neil comes and works out when he's not in a camp and doing different things, still trying to catch on.
Yeah.
He's always in phenomenal shape. I mean, I know those two are going to be in phenomenal shape. And does Cody ever really let himself get out of shape? Or does Mitch Matthews ever really let himself get out of shape?
No, and both of them are just as tall as they've been.
So there's some big-time receivers there. And 2 big-time tight ends, too.
Yeah. As for our BYU TV guys, we got David, Nixon, Brian Logan, Austin Colley. They're all on the Navy squad.
Yeah. Those guys are pretty, how much B. Logan is he going to, I wanted him and Austin to be on opposite teams, so B. Lo had to just go cover Austin.
He can't cover Austin.
No. But he can cover some dudes. He'll be okay.
That'll be a fun game. Chad Lewis is the head coach of the Royal Squad. Lee Johnson is coaching the Navy.
Yeah, that's got me a little worried.
See, I feel you're leaning toward the Royal on that.
Well, I like Royal because it's the more traditional color and what we wore. But here's the thing. Lee's my teammate. How do I root against my teammate?
Yeah,
like it's hard.
I know.
It's hard.
We look back to last year's game, and Brandon Doman looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did.
Could still zip it around.
And really, these coaches are just trying to keep these guys together and figure out and convince some of the guys to go back in that only want to play 3 plays. Because let's face it, the strategy for these games, and we're going to talk to Max in just a minute, this is about Max Hall and Riley Nelson's competitiveness. I hear they're both out there practicing.
Of course they are.
They have their teams out practicing already. So
now last year, Max, and we'll talk to him about this. He was with Ty. We don't have Ty back this year. He's taking the year off.
Right.
But Max, it feels like the event was made for Max.
Oh yeah.
It's like, how do you have one of these without Max? One, he takes it serious. He'll bring his playbook back.
Oh yeah.
You know that's coming back. And so we're going to talk to him in just a minute about that. As for the spring schedule, the last practice is Friday, March 30th. So we're a couple of weeks away from the last practice.
Interesting. People are like, oh, the alumni game is the end of the thing. No, it's not. The alumni game, there's a week of practice before or after that alumni game where they tie things together and finish up. So March 30th is the last official practice of spring ball.
Then they get busy with some of the activities for the fans in the summer in Dallas. April 27th, big fan fest down there. Of course, BYU returns to play SMU early in the season, and that's all the Dallas area. And of course, Dallas is Big 12 country.
Yeah,
all over the place.
So and SMU's now in the ACC, so that's really interesting. That's a Power 5 game in the preseason. So, and then there's going to be a fan fest in the Phoenix Gilbert area on May 18th, and that's in anticipation of that matchup with Arizona State later in the season. So that'll be fun, and we know there's a huge fan base down in the Valley of the Sun down there in that Phoenix Gilbert area.
Hey, breaking news, we've entered a new country. As Scott Williams says, couldn't sleep tonight. So cool to watch the show live from Ramstein, Germany. Ramstein. Yeah, we have to put that like shh in there because Ramstein, Germany. Only we're going to say Ramstein, Deutschland. Wie geht's, Scott Williams? So,
wie heißen Sie?
Germany is now part of the Wise Guys family of countries as we conquer the world.
Yeah.
That's cool. Good to have you with us. Stadium of Fire is July 4th. By the way, they're announcing the band on Friday.
You already know who it is. Why don't you just tell us?
I will not tell all of us.
Well, here's an idea, though.
But the announcement will be Friday, so hang in there.
Just tell us this. Are we going to be excited?
I think so.
Okay, so it's not Journey, or you'd be like, you're going to be blown away.
Well, we know it's not Journey because they're playing in Salt Lake like in a month.
Okay.
And they were here last year.
Yeah, so. And we know it's not Tim McGraw because you know how excited I would be about Tim McGraw.
Yeah. Yeah, and we could go down the list, but we're just going to stop right there because the announcement's on Thursday. And then I'll tell you
I thought you said Friday.
On Friday.
Okay, it's going to be on Friday.
So that's cool because, one, they got to get that surface in there because 45,000 people are coming in.
Yeah.
And so the stadium hopefully will be ready by then. And then a few weeks later, because the season starts so early, they'll be practicing in July.
Right.
And that's kind of cool. I always like that it gets sped up. But before that...
What's the first game? I'm trying to remember.
It's August 31st.
Yeah, it's August 31st is the first game. So you got to count back how many weeks now? Is it 4 weeks or 5 weeks back?
I thought it was 5. Seemed like any time
those
August,
start the end of July, that last week in July.
Media Days for the Big 12 at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, July 9th and 10th. So that's kind of in the middle. Stadium of Fire, Media Days.
And then the biggest event of the year.
After Further Review.
Yeah, the premiere of After Further Review.
That's July 26th. We're excited about that. We already know how that show's going to go, so we're pumped with it.
And as we mentioned, probably that last week in July, they start practice. And then Southern Illinois, Saturday, August 31st. Be good stuff.
That'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, crazy.
Hopefully we have a good, long, hot summer of downtime because things are pretty crazy.
But we never get a downtime because we're going to be here every Monday night with all these folks.
That's true. That's true. And it's daylight savings now, so now our show's no longer in the dark.
That's right.
So it's bright and shiny outside. We're waiting on Max Hall. We'll get him in just a second and talk about his, what did he call it? A redemption tour or something like that?
He's going to return to play
about coming back
after an Achilles injury. So, and we're going to talk about it, how he hurt it, because it's not how you think.
And there's also something interesting going on with Max because, him and Ty were together down there in Arizona. And now Ty's at another school. Max is staying at the school he was at. And in comes this new head coach, Joe Germain.
Who we all...
Hall of Famer at Ohio State.
And Joe, a little tie with Joe, Joe Germain and... maybe the greatest left tackle to ever play for BYU, and that's saying something. High school teammates down in Mesa, Arizona, growing up. John Tate, the great John Tate, and Joe Germain played high school football together. Joe Germain's left tackle in high school was John Tate.
He won a Rose Bowl. He went to the NFL, and anyway, so Ty's out, Joe's in.
Yeah.
But Ty's not necessarily out. He's just at a different ALA school.
Right.
I guess they can just move him around.
Transfer him around.
So we'll ask Max.
It'll be interesting how that's going to go for Max to have to coach. I think he'll have to coach against Ty, right? Now?
Maybe.
And Joe's a good friend of all those guys. And Joe, John Tate would tell me the story about how he tried to convince BYU to convert because they kind of ran the ball in high school. So nobody recruited Joe. So Joe went to a junior college and then just lit it up.
Yeah, he can throw it.
And John tried to convince BYU to take Joe Germain, and BYU wasn't interested. They said, we have our guys. So he went to Ohio State instead.
That was a miss.
That was a big miss.
Yes, it was.
And you got John Tate saying, this is my teammate. He needs to come. And he ends up at Ohio State and playing in Rose Bowls. And but anyhow, it's...
Hey, before Max gets on, Glenn's got a question. Anyone who asks us a question from the Philippines, we're
all over that.
It says BYU has 2 games minimum left in the basketball season. Would be
they have 3 games
the Big
minimum.
12 and the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So 2 for sure.
2 for sure.
How many do you think they'll actually play? That's the question.
Let's think about this. I believe they're going to win their first game in the tournament.
Okay, so there's 1.
I believe they're going to beat Texas Tech in the quarters.
There's 2.
I think it's going to be really, really difficult to beat Houston in the semis.
Right.
But I don't think that matters. I feel like if they win those 2 and lose to Houston, the number 1 team in the country, I think they're a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. So there'll be 3 games right there in the Big 12 tournament. Then they're going to play their opening round game. If they're a 4 seed or a 5 seed, they're going to play a 13 or a 12.
Yeah.
They're going to win that.
They'll be in a position for success.
Put them in the round of 32. And then, so that's at least 4. And then I feel like they got a really good chance to get the second weekend. And then who knows? So I think
5 games?
I think 4 or 5 is my projection for what they'll do.
And they're, let's see,
and remember,
22 and 9.
They're and that would be, let's say they play 5 and then they lose in the Sweet 16. And who's to say they can't win a Sweet 16 game? I'm just trying to be reasonable here. Let's say they make it to the Sweet 16. Would be phenomenal, right? Mm-hmm. And they would win 3 more games and have 2 losses because they would lose in the semis and then they would lose in the Sweet 16. So that would be 3-2. That'd be 21, 2, 3, 24 and 12?
Well, let's see. They'd have 2 losses. They can only have 2 losses left, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So there'd be 20 the 11.
3-2.
There'd be
if they finish this year now 3-2, which would be phenomenal.
Which would be 25 and 11, right?
I'm trying to think of what they are right now. I'm losing my mind.
BYU, 22-9 right now.
Yeah, BYU. Yeah, so 25-11. Would you take that or what?
Yeah, we'd take that.
Take 25.
We'd take a lot less than that.
I'd take 25-11 all day long. So and I'm not being crazy optimistic. I'm being optimistic, but I'm not being crazy. That's like most people would. I would say the odds makers would say the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Glenn says he's hoping for 4, wishing for 5.
Yeah, that's great. Dreaming
that'd
of
be a
more,
good
Glenn.
number.
We can only dream, and you know what?
Smart
Here's the thing:
madness.
if they win in that Sweet 16 and advance to the Elite 8, that would be something they haven't done since Danny Ainge was here, and
that would be something.
If that would be awesome. Michael Zimmerman says, if the 3 fallen, anything is possible. That is so true.
Phil is in from Cedar Park, Texas. Max is experiencing what I experienced last week.
Slow.
The computer is slow, and he's trying to log on with us. So Max Hall is standing by. And
do you know what is if your computer's slow, would data on a phone work faster? I don't know, or just have to be internet. Like you were watching the show on your data on the phone.
Yeah.
On the bus.
Yeah.
Right?
I was. It was just cruising right along. We've got a lot of basketball, but I hesitate to jump into it because once we get in it, we're in it.
We're in it. We're going to talk with TJ.
But I'll tell you what, we do have a national champion to talk about, a championship group from the track and field championships while we wait for Max here. BYU's distant medley relay won the national title over the weekend. Sadie Sargent, Sammy Oblad, Carly Hansen, and Riley Chamberlain. The women's team finished 7th overall. Diljeet Taylor was on with us. We had a great interview with her a couple of weeks ago, which you can find at ysguys.com. Talking about their team. 9 Cougars were named first-team All-Americans, including Lexi Holiday Lowry in 2 events, Megan Hunter, Riley Chamberlain in 2 events, Carly Hansen, Sammy Oblad, Lucas Bonds earned the first-team All-American honors on the men's side. So, congratulations to track and field. They just keep winning.
They keep doing great things, and that was one of the programs we said was ready to compete in the Big 12 from day one, and they have. They compete on a national level, which is Diljeet and Ed do a phenomenal job with those teams. Unbelievable.
Our first guest tonight is the winningest quarterback in BYU history, who is primed to make an incredible and improbable comeback during this month's Alumni game, which is a week from Friday. Please join us in welcoming back to the Wise Guys the great Max Hall, who had to tackle his computer, and he has won. Max, great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Good to be back.
Max, did the computer have an Achilles injury? Like, what happened to the computer?
Everything's falling apart over here. But let me tell you something, though. Hashtag comeback season, hashtag redemption. I'll be back there next week.
Yes.
We saw your tweet last month when they announced the date, and we were all excited about it. So let's just go back. How's the Achilles? Where are you at health-wise as we speak?
Achilles is doing good. So obviously I'm about a year out from it. But it feels good, actually. So I'm excited to be there. I probably won't be taking very many drops. Definitely not going to be celebrating very much on the sideline for it this year. But I think it's going to be good enough for me to just kind of stand there and throw the ball around. So it should be fun.
See, Max, if they do where you can't rush the quarterback and you can just stand there, like I'm actually thinking about coming back in and playing. Is it because I'm not going to run around out there. But if we can make a rule where they're not allowed to chase the quarterback, I might even consider coming back out of retirement.
Well, I think that rule has been made. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing in it. Okay, so we're all waiting for you to come out and play. I mean, it's been the talk of the town. It's still not too late. I think we can get you out there if you're ready.
Somebody's got to call this thing, though. Who's going to do that? I cannot leave that up to Dave on his own, or it could be a disaster. I can't.
You might have to come to the booth, Max.
You and I will swap. You play the first half, and then come up to the booth, and I'll play the second half.
Done. That would be a blessing. So just let me know. In for that. You can take the second half, Blaine. Come on, man.
I don't know.
Max,
I don't know.
Let's update everybody with how the actual injury occurred so they have a full appreciation of your comeback here in a couple of weeks. So tell us what happened.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to relive the embarrassment. So thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it. So what happened last year is it's kind of funny, but the other team was going. I think John Beck was playing quarterback. They threw a pass. I can't remember who caught it, but he landed out of bounds, right? So It was a 4th down play, out of bounds. So I remember moving out onto the field. I don't know if I kind of jumped or skipped or whatever. Kind of started running out on the field because it was our ball. And then just like everybody says, I felt like somebody kicked me in the back of the leg, right in the Achilles, and I dropped. And I'm looking around wondering who just kicked me. And then it kind of hit me that, oh, there's no way I just snapped my Achilles. Like, this isn't happening. So I'm sitting down on the ground and I try to get back up, fall back down. Obviously something's wrong. And me and Ty had talked about who was going to take that last series. And I'm like, Ty, this is your year, man. Like, I had my year last year, right? We threw the Hail Mary. We won it. This is all you, bro. Come on. And he goes, no, my arm, I'm done, man. Okay. So I'm like, you know what? I'm the one who's going to go down and score and win this game anyway,
Sure.
Ty. So, yeah, step aside. Let me take this thing, okay? So he looks at me, and I'm sitting on the ground, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Ty, I'm done. I think my Achilles just went. And he thought I was joking.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever, man, you're faking. Get up. And I'm like, no, Ty, something was wrong. Like, I'm thinking about trying to Robbie Bosco this thing down the field, but I cannot put any pressure on my right foot. So that's kind of how it went. And it was the first time I'd ever had to been carried off that. So it was a little bit weird, but they had to take me to the sideline, and I wasn't able to finish. So that's why I'm eager to get back there this year. Hopefully I can finish the game this year.
See, the thing that nobody knows about the Robbie thing is that Robbie was down on the ground. They picked him up to carry off. I'm like, are you okay? And he did one of those things like in the Sandlot where he went like the big wink thing.
Winked his eyes.
I'm like, wait, are you faking it? No, I'm just kidding. He did not do that. They actually had to carry him up. Can you imagine if everybody thought that was real? They're like, Robbie Bosco was faking. No, he wasn't faking.
Before Blaine asks you a rehab question, I do want to point out that after that injury, you still stayed the entire time signing autographs afterwards, because that's how you are. That's what you do, and fans love you.
Part of it is that, I love that, and I want to be there for the fans. The other part of it is I couldn't get off the field even if I tried. So I had nobody to carry me, but it was kind of funny because, the trainers, they did the whole test and squeezed my calf, and they squeezed my left one, and they're like, okay. And then they squeezed my right one, and it was just dead silence. And I go, it's gone, isn't it? And they go, yeah, Max, sorry. We'll be right back. We're going to go get you a boot and some crutches. And while they were getting the boot and crutches, I'm kind of sitting on the training table. The line started forming for people taking pictures and stuff. So I was in a lot of pain, but I'm glad I stayed, and I'm glad I got to do that. So,
man. And now
it's all for Cougar Nation, man.
Now you're 12 months out on this thing. What was rehab like? Because it's not like you're coaching, you're busy, you're doing a lot of things. It's not like when you get hurt when you're playing and that's your only focus to rehab. How did you manage, and what did that entail?
Yeah, so I have a couple good buddies down here, but I ended up hooking up with a good buddy of mine, Randy. He owns his own physical therapy place, and he was able to kind of be flexible with me when I could show up and do it. But yeah, so I rehabbed it as much as I could. For the first month, it was at least 3 or 4 times a week, and then I got busy. It gets into summer, you got 7-on-7s, and I'm out at these 7-on-7 tournaments, scooting around on a scooter and trying to move around that way and falling, and it was a disaster. But I was still out there. If there was a golf cart available, I would be in that. So I just kind of managed and did rehab as much as I could. But lately I've been getting a little bit more rehab on it, knowing that I'm going to play in this alumni game again. So I got a guy, his name's Jeff Roderick. He's been awesome. He's been kind of getting me ready for this thing. So not as consistent. Everybody made fun of me when Aaron Rodgers was back, like throwing like 2 months later. They're like, what's up, man? Hey, Aaron's back. And I'm like, well, I don't have quite the care he got. But
yeah.
It feels solid. I'm able to run on it, and I'm not thinking about it so much. And so I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling good.
That's good.
I'm glad. And I'm imagining that as they pulled that all back together and sutured it, then they probably put some bovine material and wrapped it all around it and sutured all of that in as a scaffold so that your Achilles would grow all into that. So it's like double protected typically when they fix those things. I've watched many of those surgeries over time in my other business. So I know you're going to be just fine with that thing, but I still don't think the guy should be able to rush you and you should be able to stand there and throw it, because that's what they should do.
Be good.
Yeah.
Should be good. It was a clean break. They didn't have to attach it down to my heel. They were able to just super it back together.
Perfect.
So
yeah.
At the end of the day, wasn't too bad as far as I've heard of other stories with Achilles, and mine wasn't too bad. So
Max Hall is on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. We got viewers in Germany tonight. That's a new country for us. The Philippines, and of course, all over the U.S.
Well, you know who they haven't checked in from Colombia tonight yet?
Yeah. Singapore.
Singapore is usually in the house. So, yeah, when we say global, Max, we're serious about this thing.
We're not messing around. Hey,
you guys are big time.
Be honest, Max. What limitations has your wife set on you as far as what you can and cannot do in this game coming up March 22nd?
Well, most people I talk to, when I tell them I'm going back to, they're like, bro, are you serious? You're really going back to playing that thing? And I go, I have to. I can't end it the way it ended last year. Like, I have to go back. But, she's just like, babe, all right, if that's what you want to do, be careful. Just don't do anything else, right? So she's been pretty good about it. But honestly, as much fun as the actual game is, the best part for me is seeing old teammates, old coaches, being around guys like you, and just the Cougar community, because, living in Arizona, I don't get to be around as much as I'd like. So that's probably a bigger part of it for me, is seeing all my old teammates and coaches and people around the facility that I spent so much time with, and then getting to go around and throw the football a little bit. So just the whole experience is really why I want to go and be there. And the game's just kind of like the icing on top. So it'll be fun to see everybody, and hopefully we can put on a decent show for the game.
Once you've come back to one of these, it's almost addicting, isn't it? Like you just want to be back. Every year I look around and I think to myself, I wish more of the guys would come back and feel this, because I feel like if you come once, then you really look forward to it in the future. Do you feel the same way about it?
100%. I'll come back every year if they'll have me, just for the experience. And, the fact that it's on BYU TV and you guys are there, and you got Jerem down there on the field interviewing people, and there's always a great crowd there. It's a great atmosphere. I think BYU does a really good job putting on this alumni event. I'm excited to go watch practice before and kind of be around the guys a little bit and hang around. And, that's one thing I really appreciate about Kalani, is he does such a great job with the alumni and making us feel like we're wanted and we're comfortable with coming around and being around the program. I think he embraces the tradition and just the alumni of BYU. So I think everybody does a great job. And I agree, once you're there, I mean, for me, I'd love to come back every year and just be part of it. So we just got to get more guys there. I was kind of giving Ty a hard time. He wasn't coming back this year. But I think the guys that are going to be there, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we got some guys there that weren't there in years previous. So hopefully they kind of catch on.
They get the vision. I was texting today, Max. Marv Allen, who was our starting middle backer and one of our captains on the national championship team, and a phenomenal cardiologist. He and I were texting back and forth today, and I mentioned it's the alumni game and all that this week. He was like, "Oh man, tell everybody I love him. Tell him I wish I could be there." He's doing great things. He's the mission president in New Zealand right now. He and Lori are down there serving in Auckland. But he was like, hey, tell everybody we wish we could be there. Give everybody our love. I mean, that's the way it is. You want to be here once you've been here. And Marv is an indication of that. It's really cool how once you've been part of this program, you're part of a family forever. And I love that. And I know you do too.
100%. And that's actually, I mean, it's great seeing my teammates, obviously. But, getting to see some of the legends that, I've watched or that I know have played, and getting to meet them and be around them a little bit and get to know them. That's another cool part of it for me too, is just being able to hang out and be on the same field as some of those guys. So I agree, Blaine. It's a family feel. And once you're part of the program, you're part of it forever. And again, I think they do a great job of that.
Weston's on the live stream tonight, says, Max Hall's one of my favorite Cougs. His story is very inspiring. Love hearing him speak. The great Max Hall on Wise Guys tonight. Let's talk about the quarterbacks, Max. We got Jake Heaps and James Lark on your squad. Opposite of you is Brandon Doman again, Jackson Brown, and here comes Riley Nelson. So what do you like about the matchup here?
Well, I mean, it's not really a matchup. You know, we're a lot better than they are, so we're gonna try to make it a game and then steal it at the end, probably just to make it exciting. And I feel bad for Coach Doman. He's never had to be on the other side of me, so it's gonna be a fun time. But obviously, I love all those guys. Got to play with James. Got to play with and coach Riley, and obviously Coach Doman being there. And so it's going to be fun. Just everybody remember, we're all getting a little old. We're not quite as good as we used to be, but we're going to go out there and have fun and give it our best. But I kind of looked at the teams. We got to go against some of the young guys on the other team.
Yeah.
Have to manage, but I put my group up against anybody. So there'll be a little trash talk, but at the end of the day, we're going to have fun.
I feel like Max, like Riley must know that they're undermanned, because word has it that he's been out having full on practices and running routes and everything. And so he's obviously kind of feeling like, oh man, we're gonna have to make up the talent gap by executing. So any practices on your side so far, or is this just a Riley thing?
Yeah, we talked about it, and the plan was just to show up and dominate like we normally do. We don't need to practice. We've all been there before. But it kind of makes me laugh because I think Riley's a little scared. I think he's a little nervous for this game. So we're just going to act like we've been there before and take care of business. But I do think that's hilarious if they've been having practices and throwing. That's awesome.
Are you bringing your playbook back?
Playbook's coming back.
Nice. That's the third year.
Still intact and ready to go. So it's kind of funny. We have a group chat, and in there, someone's like, "Is someone bringing a playbook?" And I go, "Guys, come on, are you serious? I'm going to be the playbook's coming." So that famous little red binder, it's going to be back this year for sure.
That's
Love
awesome.
it. Max Hall on the Wise Guys with us tonight. 32 wins, the most of any quarterback in BYU history. To me, the most important stat for any quarterback is that one right there. And I love that. Max, BYU's in the middle of spring practice now. What areas do you feel like they have to improve the most to compete in this second year in the Big 12?
Running the football, no question. And I think the coaches and players know that as well. I don't think it's a big secret. We were not good at running the football last year, and a big part of A-Rod's offense is play action. Well, if you can't run the ball, obviously play action's not going to work as well as you want it to. So I think running the ball, I think they need to develop a better quick game, maybe a better RPO system, just to be able to put defenses in tough situations instead of just maybe lining up with a 12 personnel or whatever and just smashing the football. I think they need to be a little bit more creative in the run game, which will open up some of those things in the play action. And then, obviously they need consistent quarterback play. So I'm actually really excited to get up there and check out the new quarterbacks that they have. I don't really know a lot about them yet. I'm excited to see them in person and get to meet them, but they need a great signal caller who can manage everything and make the plays when needed. But again, it comes down to running the football. And if it's going to be harder to do in the Big 12, but if they can establish some sort of a run game, I think it's going to open up other things in the offense.
We had Connor Pay on the show a couple of weeks ago, the center, and with TJ Woods, the new offensive line coach, who's also the run game coordinator.
Right.
Connor thought that was a huge development for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think they have some great people in place and the right people to get it done. So, I mean, I got faith in A-Rod and TJ and the new coaches that they have coming in, and they just got to put it together. They got to go to work. So I've kept up a little bit on spring ball, and I've seen some interviews by some of the coaches and players, and I think they're saying some of the same things. So the nice thing is that I think everybody's on board with what the mission is leading up to the season and the things that they have to get better at and where they need to focus their concentration. And so we'll see if they can get it done. I think they have the talent, and I think they have the right guys in place. So now they got to put it together.
Connor was kind of telling us that they've been basically a zone team in the run game over the last several years. But he said that TJ brings more of an expertise in the counter and the power game. And so they've been running more. They're still going to run zone, right? But he said, we're running a lot more. We're pulling folks, and we're running a little more downhill, more counter and more power. And for folks listening at home, Max knows exactly what I'm talking about. But, plays where you pull the backside, you down block and you pull the backside, guarding the tackle, and you kick out and lead up, or you pull a one lineman and lead up with a tight end or an H-back. What's your thought on that? Is that something that, like, as you're coaching, you see more of in football, and is it good that BYU is going to have more of an emphasis on that next year in the run game?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a big power counter guy, and different versions of it, and different ways that you can run it and get to it. A lot of it depends on the team that you're going against and the front that they run and the different things that they could do on defense to stop it. But I always think that power counter has to be part of your run game. And then you mix in zone. I mean, even in the high school, the first 4 plays we learn are power counter, inside and outside zone. That has to be your base. And I think that translates into college too. Now, defensive coordinators are getting better and learning on how to stop a gap scheme run, which power and counter are. And so you have to be able to coach it. And it sounds like they have the right guy in there that can coach it correctly and coach it against the different fronts or twists or blitz or whatever a team might bring. And if you can be really disciplined in the rules of power and counter, it's really hard to stop. And then you mix in your inside and outside zone. But I also think they need to do a good job of getting to it different ways, different formations, different motions, and then having RPOs and different things tagged to it, to where if teams are going to stack the box or put 7 in the box, that you have answers for it. It's where you're not just trying to, smash against a 7-8 man box. You got to have other things attached to it that will put players in conflict. And so if A-Rod can kind of put that together along with a great O-line coach teaching a gap scheme, then I think you can be very successful with it. So I think that's going to be a nice addition to the zone scheme that they already run.
Couple more questions with Max Haws. TJ Haws is going to join us live here in studio in just a couple of minutes. During his Cougar days, Max threw for 11,365 yards and 94 touchdowns. Now you're coaching football in Arizona, and we've got a big question because there was a major development down in Arizona. I read about it when I was in Arizona on the baseball broadcast a couple of weeks ago. So the juggernaut of Ty Detmer Max Hall is no longer. What happened? So the school that we coach for, American Leadership Academy, it's a charter school, but American Leadership Academy actually has multiple different high schools. And the same owner owns all that, and it's run by a company called Charter One that manages all the different American Leadership Academy high schools. Well, they ended up having to let go of a coach that was at one of the other high schools under the umbrella of ALA, and they thought it would be best for ALA as a whole if Ty would go to that other high school and kind of get that one back on track. So they asked Ty to move to a different high school, which is actually kind of a rival high school of the Queen Creek campus that we're at. So it's going to be interesting going from coaching with Ty to coaching against Ty this year. Bring it on, but it's going to be hard to coach against that guy, right? And I've developed such a great relationship with Ty. It is sad that I don't get to coach with him, at ALA Queen Creek going forward. But I think it'll give me some opportunities in the future to potentially be a head coach and to take over a program. But I'm going to miss Ty and coaching with Ty. But the high schools are only maybe 10 miles apart, so we'll still see each other a lot. And still do whatever we can for the kids to get them recruited and all that. But, unfortunately, they had to split us up, and they asked Ty to go over there. So he'll be at the Gilbert campus this year. Are you going to play against each other? Will you play?
Yeah. In regular season? So you would play each other in the regular season?
Yeah.
He knows all your plays.
Yeah,
you're going to have to
all
come up with new
his
stuff.
You're going to have to put, but like the colleges this year, you're going to have the thing in the helmet and can't signal stuff in anymore. You know each other's stuff.
Listen, man, I'll walk across the field and hand Ty my script and say, good luck stopping me, man. That's just how I am. So, he knows my scheme and stuff, but he doesn't know how I'm going to game plan for him this week, and vice versa. He knows our defense and what we do. So it'll be an interesting chess match, I think, when we play each other.
Hey, the great Henry Marsh just chimed in, and he says on the chat, hey, fun story. When Max is making a recruiting visit, my daughter was a cheerleader, and I made her go up to him and tell him to come to BYU. So.
And that's why I went to BYU.
When you got a world champion's daughter telling you, then you go, right? So that's awesome.
That kind of confirmed all my thoughts about going to BYU for sure. But that, along with everything else that BYU brings, but that's a cool story. I appreciate him sharing that.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to mention, we talked about the fact that now you're going to be working with Joe Germain. Before you came on, I gave people a little bit of background about Joe and, playing with John Tate in high school down there in the Mesa area and going to JC and then to Ohio State. BYU missed on him for sure because he wanted to come to BYU. But another great LDS quarterback who had great career in college and, played in Rose Bowls with Ohio State. What's that going to be like to be coaching now with Joe? I'm sure you know Joe and have some history with him.
So I actually will not be coaching with Joe.
Oh,
what happened?
Joe has been asked to coach one of the other high schools.
No, we heard that he was going to come and take Ty's place. So now we're going to have all three of you spread out?
Yep. So you got Joe Germain at one high school, you got Ty Detmer at another high school, and then you got me at the Queen Creek campus. So we don't play Joe. It's a brand new high school that he's going to be at. So he's going to be in a lower division to start. So we won't actually get to play him, but I gotta give credit to the ownership of ALA and the executive team. They have some really great people in place at the different high schools under the umbrella. So Joe Germain at one, Ty Detmer, Max Hall. So it's kind of cool to see the growth of these charter schools and competing with some of the big teams in the state. Because you got to realize ALA Queen Creek, where I'm at, we only have 1,000 kids in our school. We have a 3A enrollment, and we're going to be playing 6A teams that have 4,000 kids at their high school. So we're undermatched a little bit. And so it's important to have great coaching and great people that can come in and lead your program. So I think ALA is doing that. We have some really good people involved.
Well, that's a curveball because the initial report with Joe was coming to your place. And so are you the head coach or are you the assistant? Who are you working with?
Yeah, so they're just keeping me in the same role that I'm at.
Offense coordinator.
Rich Edwards, who was the original AD and head coach when I first got to ALA, is going to take over for a little bit. And then, hopefully I have to finish my degree. Okay. Yeah, it's embarrassing for me to say, but I've already signed up in my class. I talked to Hambone down there. I got 2 classes left to finish. So the plan is to finish that. And then, hopefully that's in my future at the Queen Creek.
Let's get that done. Let's not pull a Jim McMahon where we all had to convince Jim if we were going to retire his number or get him in the Hall of Fame, he had to graduate. And, we had to do the same thing with Vi. Vi had to come back and get his.
Get that done because there's another Hall of Fame up here.
Yeah,
that's got a spot for you.
We got a spot for you, but we got to get that degree, brother. So.
I mean, that would be great, and hopefully that happens. But yeah, the plan is to be done by the end of summer and be able to get that degree. So I'm looking forward to getting it.
And meanwhile, we'll root for Ty, we'll root for Joe, we'll root for you, all of our guys down there in the Valley. And when you're playing each other, gosh, I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to root for you because you're the best to us.
That's right.
So I love Ty.
I appreciate that. Ty's great too, and I love Ty. But I appreciate that.
And Joe's a phenomenal human being as well. So, yeah.
You know what though? Those 2 guys are awesome, but they don't join the show at the drop of a hat.
No.
We ask Max every time, and Max makes time for us. So you got us in
your
corner.
Man, anytime. I love being on here with you guys. You know that.
Hey, let's finish with your 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Are you ready? Did you prepare that list?
Yes.
We'll go 5 to 1.
Yeah, the 5th to the 1st. Yeah.
5th to the 1st, and now you got me all backwards. So Drew Brees is number 5 for me.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And some of this is just quarterbacks that I really like, but
fine.
some of them are goats, right?
What's your list?
Drew Brees, number 5. Aaron Rodgers, number 4.
Okay.
Brett Favre, number 3. Peyton Manning, number 2. And Tom Brady, number 1. That's my list.
Nice.
How come Roger Staubach's not on your list? The greatest Dallas Cowboys.
For my time, I don't know. I probably should throw my Uncle Danny up there.
Yeah.
He'll probably be upset with me. But, I mean, the Starbucks, the Montana, some of those old guys, I mean, were just phenomenal. The game has just changed so much since those guys played. So.
Here's the interesting thing. Like, I always throw Steve Young in there, and only because Steve's skill set translates to today. Because
I agree.
Because
I think Steve would be a great quarterback in today's game because of his versatility.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Blaine. I think he would do just fine.
yeah. No, it's funny because we talk about it, and it's like now you want a little bit more mobility. You want, they move the guys around. You don't. It's not. Even though Peyton and Tom are I agree with the two greatest of all time, and they're 6'5" kind of pocket guys. It feels like the game's morphing where Steve Young kind of guys are the guys that are really having success right now. And I'm like, man, I think Steve would be even better now than he was when he played. And he is a Hall of Famer. So I always throw Steve in my top 5. So
you're right. I might have to throw him, him and Drew Brees, something there. But I think you're right. I think Steve deserves to be up there. And I think you're correct. I think his game does translate, and he would do phenomenal in the different kind of run options, RPO stuff and quarterback run stuff that people do nowadays. He was such a phenomenal athlete and a great quarterback. So I agree with you, man. Steve's up there.
I remember Mike Holmgren telling me that when Steve came from the Bucks, they did 40s, and he ran the second fastest 40 time on the team after Merton Hanks. Like, he was faster than Eric Wright, the starting corner, and fast. Like, he was the second fastest player on the team, ran in the low 4.4s. That's crazy for that time.
And I think maybe people forget how great of an athlete he was. A lot of the kids nowadays, they never watched him play, and but guys like him those were the guys I watched growing up and watched highlight films on and stuff. So way better athlete than I think he gets credit for.
Yeah, I love this list though, and that's a great list. And the GOAT, Tom Brady, of course, number 1.
Yeah.
Hey, on the live stream, we'll finish with this, Max. Royal Coug writes, great memories being in Dallas in the last row of the upper deck watching Max beat Oklahoma.
A memory I'll never forget. It's a good thing we won that game because I went in at halftime guaranteeing the win, and ESPN caught me on camera. So it's a good thing that we pulled it off. Otherwise, I'd have looked like a chump. But it was just a special night. The defense came to play. They had goal line stands and turnovers, and just Bronco had those guys ready to go. And then the offense just made plays, and that drive in the fourth quarter to go down and win it. So it was just cool. I remember our little sliver of BYU fans up there in that one corner, and then most of the plays being, the Crimson Red. And so first game ever played in that stadium officially. So it was one of those moments that, I'll never forget. McKay Jacobson in his hometown catching that touchdown pass in the back of the end zone. I mean, just phenomenal game.
Great stuff.
Awesome memories.
Hey, we look forward to seeing you in a week from Friday under the lights for the BYU alumni game on BYU TV, the great Max Hall. We couldn't do this event if you weren't coming, so I think it's going to be awesome, and we are going to be watching you closely. We'll have 20 cameras on you to make sure you don't scramble, you don't run, you just stay there and throw.
I'll get on a D lineman and tell him to leave you alone. So wait, Cinder and Jack said, "Hi, Dad, love you." Are those yours? Is that? It says Cinder and Jack.
That must be my daughter on here.
Cinder and Jax they just got on there and they just said, "Hi, Dad, love you." So
those are my 2 dogs, by the way. So that's why I'm saying it must be my daughter. She's the dog lover.
I love that
we have those 2 dogs.
We've never had.
That's funny.
We've never had animals on the live stream.
That would be
first for
This is our first animal pipe in. Max's dogs just piped in, Cinder and Jack, and said that they love their dad. There you go.
That's awesome. Max, we'll see you soon.
Max, see you next week, brother.
Love you guys. Thank you. Appreciate
Max.
you.
Great Max Hall coming back to BYU for another alumni football game.
Hey, on the chat while we're talking, Dave Simmons, good friend of the show, he tweeted, "Hey, congratulations to my Daniel Simmons, my nephew, who just won the 5K Nationals in Boston, who's a BYU commit to come on track. He broke the record by 18 seconds.
Fantastic.
So BYU's loading up on track athletes. So glad to have Daniel Simmons coming.
They just win.
That's all they do. They just keep winning.
Hey, our next guest is the last. It is I think the last point guard to start all 133 games of his BYU career. And maybe the only ever to actually do that as we move forward. Our pleasure to welcome TJ Haws to the Wise Guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Got that mic situated. We've been waiting a long time to have you here in studio. And
he's here.
You've been with us in our BYU TV studio. Now you're in the Wise Guys studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
I felt like TJ had the best debut of anybody knew we've ever brought on any of those shows.
On our pregame show?
Yeah, he came on the pregame show and it's like, oh, this dude belongs. He's basically started every game on TV with us so far, too. This is his second TV game. And he's, our live stream game, and he started every game there too.
We had a lot of Haws on the left side of the desk.
Yes, we did.
Because Tyler was there too. But two guys who've scored a lot of points at BYU, won a lot of games. And was that a nerve-wracking moment for you to be a TV analyst?
Yeah, I think I had some nerves, coming up to it, but it was fun talking with you guys. It was fun being on with Tyler. And
you know how I could tell you were nervous? Your ear would twitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like going, but you didn't sound nervous. That's half the battle.
Yeah, that's good. I know. Before every game, you always have nerves and stuff, but once the ball's tipped off, it's like, okay, let's go. And so I was hoping for that same feeling. I'm like, once we get going, hopefully I figure it out.
And what we're looking for on that is, hey, this is just four guys sitting there talking basketball.
Exactly.
Which is what it became.
Exactly.
And then it was just fun to have you guys there, and it was fun to have you and Tyler together. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was great. I was hoping we'd win. But
yeah, they've
some good luck there.
They've done their fair share of that this season, though, haven't they?
For sure, it's been a blast to watch this team.
Let's jump into a bunch of this stuff. The bulletin stuff from today: the AP Top 25 has BYU number 20, net ranked still number 12. Ken Palm's number 16. Lunardi has him around a 5 seed, and the Big 12 tournament has him as a 5 seed. What number doesn't surprise you of that group?
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, because considering 3 months ago, these numbers weren't under consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what number doesn't surprise me. All I know right now is I'm really excited about all those numbers. And I think right now with how battle tested this team is, I feel like whatever spot we're put in, I'm comfortable with. And I'm really excited about this week in Kansas City, and I think our first game is going to be a really tough challenge. It's hard to beat, UCF 3 times, and Oklahoma State plays us really well. Right. And so I think if we can get through that first game, we're going to, I think we can make a little run. But that first game is going to be a challenge.
Look, before we go any further, that hat you got on, in a mirror, is the Cougars right side up and the Brigham Young is upside down, or how does that work?
I don't know. Yeah, it's my cousin. He runs this company, and it's Wood and Grail, and he's done a really good job. And if you start to look for these hats, you'll see them all over the place. The upside down,
Wood and
Grail.
I'm looking over at you and I'm going, man, I've been on a long road trip, and I'm like, is that Cougars upside down?
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the monitor to see if it looks different on the monitor, but it still looks upside down.
All right, shout out to Wood and Grail.
Wood and Grail.
Wood and Grail. Hey, Jackson Robinson, he's named the Big 12 Sixth Man of the Year. He's coming off the bench all year. Does that surprise you, first of all, that he's come off the bench? And what does that take for a guy with his talent level to be okay coming off the bench for a whole season like this?
Yeah, I think for someone like him, I don't feel like it's hey, you're not good enough to be in the starting 5. We're going to, I think there is a lot of strategy that goes into that. Bringing him off the bench brings a huge spark for this team. Yeah. And, he's done a really, really good job all year of coming off the bench and just helping this team get going. And obviously he can put the ball in the basket.
70 3-pointers to lead the group.
That's a fantastic number. And I think, what you really like about this team is everybody has just accepted their role, and everybody plays their role extremely well. And Jackson does a great job of that. Also, he comes in and knows what they're asking him to do. And I don't feel like he's coming in going, I should be this guy or I should be starting. Like, he comes in and does his job and helps us win games and make shots. Yeah.
In Dave's research, we looked back, and Dave dug deep. This is only the second time a BYU player has won the Sixth Man of the Year in any conference. Jonathan Tabernari is the last one.
Really?
In 9-10. And that's, yeah. I was thinking back, I feel like we've had other really good Sixth Men, and you've followed it since you were little. Your dad played, Marty played back in the olden days, but that's saying something, that we've only had 2 of them. And here in the Big 12, when he's the 6th man of the year in the Big 12, that's quite an accomplishment, really.
Yeah. No, it's really sweet, especially in the Big 12. There's a lot of talented guys in this league, and to come in the first year and do it like that, that's really exciting.
Honorable mention, all Big 12, Robinson, Dallin Hall, Fusini Traore, Spencer Johnson. Foose comes off the bench now in his new role, and yet still impacts how games go. Totally. Like he did the other night against Oklahoma State. Kellen Sampson, the Big 12 Coach of the Year, was well-deserved. TJ Otzelberger from Iowa State was probably right there in the mix, and you could argue Mark Pope.
Totally. I know, to in the preseason to be selected 13 and then finish at 5 is a huge accomplishment. Yeah. And just what he's done with this group of guys, and the way that every single player is bought into his style, and it's really special. Definitely Pope deserves to be in that conversation.
Let's march through the Big 12 tournament. You can tell us who you think is going to win.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll do a pick 'em.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so we start Tuesday, March 12th. You already mentioned, that BYU awaits, because they have a first-round bye, by being in the first 6 as the 5 seed. But we're starting tomorrow. The 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time game is Oklahoma State and Central Florida. BYU play the winner. Oklahoma State's the 13 seed. Of course, BYU just played them the other night.
Yep.
Central Florida, the 12 seed. BYU, they swept Central Florida, surprisingly, with the length, and Central Florida's had some good wins. They're the 12 seed. Who do you like in that matchup? And then, they would face BYU the next day.
Who do I like who do I like for our matchup?
Yeah, who do you think will win, and then who do you wish would win?
Yeah. I think UCF's going to win. I think they're going to get that done. Like I said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year, regardless of, ranking or how much you beat them by. It's just difficult to beat a team.
And they got athletes that can give us trouble.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think UCF's going to win. But I think that game will be really good.
All right, game 2 tomorrow. West Virginia took last place. That Bob Huggins departure fiasco, and I was just back there with baseball, and they're still buzzing about it.
Yeah.
What a gut punch before the season. So they take last place. They're the 14 seed. Cincinnati, who beat BYU in the opener, is the 11 seed. Who wins that one?
Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati will get that done.
Yeah, I wish Cincinnati was on BYU side of the bracket, because I feel like in the opener, BYU loses to Cincinnati. I don't think Cincinnati could beat BYU now.
I agree.
I don't think they could. BYU's figured themselves out since that kind of slow start to league play, and I think that Oklahoma State and UCF are better matchups than West Virginia or Cincinnati would be. So it's too bad BYU's on on that side of the bracket, because I think like you said, Central Florida's a tough matchup. So then we get into Wednesday, and on Wednesday, BYU versus Central Florida. Yep. If they win, like you're saying, and let's start with that one. What's your thought on that?
I think it's going to be a good game. I really believe, honestly, that BYU can beat anybody in the country. After watching this team all year, I just think the style of play that we play, there hasn't been a game where we've, a couple minutes in the game, I'm like, it's just, we're not good enough for this.
Yeah.
The way we play, we can beat anybody in the country. And that's really exciting. So, that being said, we're going to come out and win. I think we're going to come out and we're going to have a lot of energy, a lot of fight, a lot of focus right out the gates, and I think we're gonna roll in that game.
Get that Central Florida game.
All right, game 2 on Wednesday. The 9 seed Sooners, 8 seed TCU.
I think TCU comes out on top.
Really?
For that one.
Okay.
Yep, and then the 5 o'clock game, Mountain Time. Of course, we're doing all things Mountain Time on ESPN Plus. That's Kansas State and Texas. Kansas State is the 10 seed, Texas the 7 seed in that one.
Have you guys made your predictions yet?
Well, I like Kansas State's toughness, but I love Texas's guards.
Yeah.
And I think Texas is going to get that one on a neutral. I think Kansas State's really good at home, but I think Texas gets them on a neutral floor.
Yeah. I know. It seems to me like Kansas State, they're kind of up and down like this. They've had obviously some really great wins. They beat Kansas, they beat Iowa State. They can do it. So I think I'm going to take Kansas State on that one.
Okay. Kansas State to me, they rough up the other team's guards. Like they're really physical.
Yep.
I feel like Texas's guards, they're not the real long. Like they're more compact, physical. I think they hold up to that kind of pressure, especially on a neutral. I think the Texas's guards hold up and they get that one. So there we go. So TJ's got Kansas State. I got Texas in that one. And then the nightcap at 7:30 is Baylor, the 3 seed, against the winner of Kansas, West Virginia, Cincinnati. That's the other side of the bracket, kind of parallel to BYU's, where Kansas is waiting for the West Virginia Cincinnati winner.
Hey, wait, you hopped today.
Oh, crap. I went further.
Kansas has to first beat West Cincinnati.
Okay, let's do that one. Kansas, West Virginia, Cincinnati, which would lead to that game I'm talking about on Thursday night. So Kansas versus West Virginia, Cincinnati winner. You picked Cincinnati to win that one. And then they have to face number 6 Kansas.
Now remember, Dickinson just separated his shoulder.
Yeah. Has there been anything further on that?
I haven't heard anything.
If he's playing or
but
not.
if you separated your shoulder,
For sure.
I don't know how the next game out your shoulder's fine.
Yeah.
But that's what they're dealing with.
I think it depends on what shoulder.
Yeah. I'm still taking Kansas.
Kansas? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still taking Kansas.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Thursday, March 14th, things get going now. The top 4 seeds are in play. Texas Tech is the 4 seed, and you've got BYU advancing to try and get them for the game that got away in Lubbock. How do you see that one going?
I'm taking us again.
It's interesting because
We're not shocked by that.
I've read over the last.
But I really believe that.
I know.
I'm really taking us.
Over the last 2 days, TJ, I've read 5 different Big 12 previews. Nobody's even talking about Texas. I'm like, how are they not even talking about Texas Tech? They're the 4 seed. Everybody's saying the teams that have a chance to win this tournament are, and they go, Houston, who's the number 1 team in the country. They're talking about Iowa State with their phenomenal defense. And by the way, Houston and Iowa State are number 1 and 2 in the country in adjusted, defensive efficiency.
It's crazy.
Does defense win championships? We're going to find out, right? Of course, Houston's really skilled. They're a top 30 offensive team, too. Iowa State's not that gifted on offense. That's why I got Houston to win the whole thing. But Houston and Iowa State, and then they say, and then, of course, Kansas and BYU. And I'm like, they're not even talking about Texas Tech. They're talking about can Kansas get their form back? And then they talk about Baylor because Baylor's so skilled offensively. Like Baylor's the opposite of Iowa State, really skilled offensively, not so great defensively. Iowa State's really skilled defensively, not so great offensively. Yeah. Houston's everything. BYU is the second. BYU's top 15 all year long offensive efficiency, top 50 all year long defensive efficiency. So Houston and BYU are the 2 balanced teams. Got this phenomenal defensive team in Iowa State, this phenomenal offensive team in Baylor. And then you got Kansas that everybody's like, can they regain their great form? Nobody's talking about Texas Tech. Why is nobody talking about them?
It's interesting because, as I've been following all year, they've had some big wins and some close, good losses. I think they lost at Baylor one week and they dropped out of the rankings and we dropped 1 spot. We lost, I can't remember what game we lost that week, but we dropped 1 or 2 spots. And they dropped out of the rankings. They won at home against somebody and then lost at Baylor, I think, and dropped out of the rankings. And I was like, man, they don't get it. And they just jumped into the rankings this week and they finished 4th. And
hey, they got that Pop Isaacs, and if he's going, he's going. And he got going against BYU in that second half. So back to Thursday, the top seeds Houston and Iowa State. Houston would play TCU. Iowa State would play Kansas State. You like the top seeds moving on?
Yeah, top seeds for sure.
Nothing there in that one. Now we get back to your Baylor question.
Yeah, now we go back to that Baylor versus, you got Kansas over West Virginia or Cincinnati. I do too. So who gets that? Does Baylor the 3 seed prevail and beat Kansas?
Yes. Yeah, Baylor's going to get that win.
So you're going to have Baylor, Iowa State, Houston, and you got BYU beating Texas Tech. So that's your semifinals.
Yep.
You got
it's pretty good TV.
Yeah, that's a great semifinal on Friday, March 15th. In the first game, the BYU side of the bracket, you got BYU going head to head with the number 1 team in the country, Houston. Who do you got?
I'm still gonna go with BYU.
I think they're gonna shoot it.
And I love the way we played against those guys, and we didn't. I feel like we proved that we can have not our greatest game offensively and going up against the best team in the country, and we lose by 1.
Had a shot, wide open 3, and
I
just
felt
didn't hit
like
it.
BYU was the only team all year that made Houston not look like the number 1 defensive team in the country.
Yeah,
BYU was effective offensively. I like
got great looks.
I like their chances too.
Iowa State, Baylor, the second semifinal.
Iowa State. Yeah, I'm going to take Iowa State.
Yeah. You like defense.
I do think, Baylor has a lot of experience in this, but yeah, I think Iowa State, I think they're going to get it done.
See, I don't know if BYU beats Houston, but I think they can beat Iowa State in the championship game.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too. Like if they get to the championship game, I would take them.
I know that. Yeah, watching that game, right out the gates against Iowa State, I'm like, man, we play really well against these guys, and we were getting great
That's a game they
looks
should have won on the road.
They won't have the
home.
crowd. They won't have the crowd at Kansas City. And
Who, Iowa State, you're saying?
Yeah.
I've heard they travel really well for this.
Yeah,
But-
they should.
Iowa State has a great fan base, as does Kansas.
But they won't
as
be
the-
like that home arena. That's
for sure.
That's Sparky.
Yeah.
Much like the BYU arena.
This is this is such an interesting tournament. There's so many good teams. The crazy thing is these teams could have as high or higher seedings in the NCAA tournament as they do in the Big 12 tournament.
I know. It's crazy.
And you're gonna have 7, 8, possibly 9 teams from this league. 8 almost for sure, right?
Yeah.
In the NCAA tournament.
I think we have 8 for sure right now.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's wild. It's such a fun league.
Former BYU point guard TJ Haws on the Wise Guys tonight. Started all 133 games at BYU between 2016 and 2020, with the mission scattered in there as well. Let's go to the first game, November 14th, 2016, 20 points against Princeton. Nice first impression. Final start, March 3rd, 2020, against St. Mary's in the semis of the WCC tournament. With a lot of those games in between, what did you enjoy the most of college basketball?
Man, being at BYU is just such a special place. And I look back on my years, and I mean, even just before this show, I'm sitting here texting a bunch of guys that I used to play with, and we talk all the time. And there's I just the relationships and the friendships that I created here at BYU are lifelong. And there's so many great memories. You talk about those 2 games. It's a fun start, a rough finish, and there's so many in between. But I just feel like I'm so close with a lot of these guys and coaches that I just think it's a special place that has special people.
Do you have a best moment that stands out? I mean, that's a lot of games that you played. Is there something, not necessarily a game, but a moment where you're just like, oh, I'll remember that for the rest of my life?
Yeah, there was the first one that popped in my head as you said that was after we won at Houston. Which we're going to do again this week. Not at Houston, but we're going to win.
You hit the buzzer shot.
Had a fun game, but we got in the locker room, and there was just a feeling that team was different. And I remember Jake Toolson getting up in front of our team, and he just gave like a 5-minute speech. And if you ask anybody on that team, any coach that was in that locker room, it was the greatest post-game speech we'd ever heard. And it was just like, we were all just so fired up. And if you ask Jake about it, he's like, I don't even remember what I said. Like, I was just going on adrenaline, and it was just a special moment that was like, you just really felt this team is special. It's a special group of guys, and it's going to be a fun year.
Well, sports gives us the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. What's the worst?
Oh, the worst. I don't know. We talk about that a lot as players. It's like, basketball can give you the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's moments where that plane ride home after a game is just the worst feeling in the world. It's nobody's talking to each other. It feels like, the sky is falling and, the sun's not going to come up tomorrow. And it's a terrible feeling, but it's what makes sports so great, because the wins are the exact opposite. It's the highest of highs.
So
is there an absolute worst?
An absolute worst.
Mine's easy, but it's not fair because mine's like the debacle. It's one of the worst losses in the history of college football. So anyhow, go ahead with yours.
There's a few that's coming to my mind. I mean, my freshman year at home against UVU was hard. My senior year against Utah was hard. My junior year against San Diego was hard. Yeah. Again, I have a lot of great friends from that team, and that was we felt that was the end. And after that was really hard. Just because, in basketball, you can lose, and the next day you show up and you turn the page, and it's like, let's go. We're on to the next game. But that one was hard because it was like, this is the end for us, and a lot of tears in that locker room.
Yeah, it's a good thing that there's a lot more good than bad over the years, especially during your career when we had such great teams. Yeah, mine is, in case people don't, we lost to UTEP. Like, we won a national championship. We hadn't lost in almost 2 years. UTEP, I'm not sure if they'd won in 2 years.
It was so bad that it made highlights on the NFL Today the next morning.
We went, and it was like the biggest upset in the decade.
Yeah.
And like we sat in the locker room afterwards, like, did we just lose to UTEP? Like, what just happened?
Yeah,
it was awful. So
and you can't describe the feeling to anybody. Nobody gets it because it's like
we don't.
We're doing this every day, all day.
How can we play this? We still went on and got back into the top 15 and played in the Citrus Bowl against Ohio State. But I remember that moment and thinking, this is like, how is this even possible? So mine's always easy. When everybody asks me your worst moment, I'm like, we lost to UTEP. Are you kidding me? It's not that hard. Yours is a little harder. You had so many great wins, but
there's a lot more games too in basketball too.
Yeah. So, well, TJ, we're glad to have you. TJ is still the number 7 all-time leading scorer in BYU history, 1,899 points. Number 3 with 242 made threes. Number 5 all-time with an assist average of 4.53. You kidding me? Career? And he's tied with Jimmer with 47 games of making 3-point shots or more. Tied with Jimmer.
That's pretty good stuff right there.
That's amazing. So after 3 straight appearances in tournaments other than the NCAA tournament, here comes the spring of 2020. You guys are 25-8. You talked about that being a special team already. A number of folks on the national level were talking about, this is a team that's built to get to a Final Four. I mean, we were all saying that. You could just feel the specialness of this team. And then COVID hits. And it shuts everything down. Where were you when you got the word that there was going to be no NCAA tournament that year? No big dance. It's canceled. What was that like? And what did you do?
Oh, yeah, I can still remember like it was yesterday. I remember being in the annex. We came back from the WCC tournament, and there were kind of rumors going around that there were going to be no fans at the tournament. And we were all like, man, that would be the worst. No fans. Like, this is what it's all about. You're going to play in this random city, and there's, a packed arena, and to have no fans seems like, I don't know. It was a bummer. And looking back, that would have been fine, but then we finished practice and we went up in our team room and we were talking, and I think Pope got a text or saw a tweet or something, and we had just finished practice. No one had their phones, and I just remember Pope saying, guys, and the tournament's canceled, and there really wasn't anything else to be said. And we sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes in complete silence. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody was talking. It was just kind of like, is this real? Is this really happening? Because all year we had ups and downs, and we didn't lose in February, so we felt like we were really on the up and up and feeling like we're ready to make a run, like you said, in the tournament. And for it to end like that was really, really hard, and something that to this day I don't know if I've really like processed that. I remember when I was with the Magic in the G League, we went back to Vegas for a tournament around Christmas, and we were staying at the same hotel, and we pulled up, and I was like, oh my gosh, like all those feelings came back of like we were at the WCC tournament, and that was kind of when everything got crazy. You'd heard there was a fan at our game against Gonzaga that had COVID or whatever, and it kind of brought all those feelings back, and I was like, man, I really pushed these feelings out of my life, because it was such a hard thing, because like I said, that team was so special, and those guys were so much fun to be with, and we had just been through so much that year, and just the daily grind, and to have it kind of be ripped from us like that was really hard.
And it's different when you lose a game and it's over, because that was in your control. But this was just like, whoa, wait a minute here, completely out of our control and out of left field. Did you feel about that team like we all did, that that you could beat anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And that you could be a Final Four team. Was that the feeling within the team at that time?
Totally. Yeah, we with Yoli inside that could score at will, it felt like, and we were shooting over 40% as a team from three. It was just pick your poison a little bit, and that's what we felt. And like I said, we hadn't lost in February, and we felt like we were really rolling, and we felt like we had figured it out a little bit, how to be really effective. And teams that were going to play Yoli one-on-one, we were good to just go to him. I think, one of our last games was against Pepperdine, and Yoli almost had 40. And I remember it. It was like, just give him the ball. If you're not going to double him, like, we're just going to give him the ball and he's going to go to work. And, we really felt like, we can beat anybody. We're, we shoot the three extremely well, and we have great inside presence, and we can do this.
Now, your dad, Marty, played in 3 big dances. Tyler played in 3. And you didn't get any. Do you feel like you got robbed out of this whole thing?
Yeah, that last one was rough because I felt like I was going to go farther than all those guys. I'm like, I was going to end up on top in the family. So we can just imagine that was the case,
Well, you took us right into that moment. It was very interesting. You did top the family in high school, 4 5A state championships, a Max Preps national championship at Lone Peak, also named the Deseret News Mr. Basketball, and the Utah Gatorade Player of the Year in 2014. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
You got that.
I have a little smack talk around the dinner table.
Yes, you got that. Hey, from the chat, Richard Smurthwaite says, hey, hi from Panama. First of all, cool that he's in Panama.
Nice.
He says, father-in-law to Dave and Marissa, friends of TJ's from his mission in Lyon.
Yeah, the Smurthwaites. That's
pretty fun.
That's a fantastic family. I have some great memories with that family out in Lyon.
Nice connection, cool connections. Thanks for piping in, Richard.
Hey, who wins the following competitions between you, your dad, and Tyler? Since we're talking about one-upsmanships.
Yep.
Free throws, most without a miss. Who wins?
Probably Ty. Ty would win that one.
Is Tyler the best free throw shooter?
He's probably shot the most free throws.
Okay, all right. So we'll give it to Ty.
He told us that, like, what he used to do every day, and then we had Jimmer on, and Jimmer's like, well, yeah, I used to do the same thing, except for that I would stay until I missed. And one time I made 176 in a row or something like that. We're like, oh, sorry.
He said it with a little humility.
Yeah.
Okay, a game of pig, all 3-point shots.
Me. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm winning that game.
You're winning a 3-point shooting.
I don't know if my dad can get it there.
Okay, it's 1-1. Who's the most graceful winner?
My dad. Yeah. Actually, that might be a tough one. So I'll give you guys this. My dad, he played when I was growing up, getting to a point where I could start to play him in one-on-one a little bit. Yeah. Getting serious. I'd finish a workout with him and I'd be like rolling it out. Let's go. Come on. And he beat me when I was in 7th grade and hasn't played me since.
Oh, it's like
he was done. He knew it.
As soon as he realized that it could be iffy from this point forward, I'm out.
Yeah, so he hasn't played me. So everybody that we talk about this to, he's like, yeah, ask him about the last time we played.
It was
like,
a walk-off.
7th grade.
I'm like, Dad, yeah, you didn't play me ever since. That's crazy.
Well, I had a 17-year winning streak against my son Andrew in bowling.
Okay.
And it was so humiliating for him when I would bring it up. Didn't mean anything to me because it was, it's bowling for one. But just the fact that it was 17 years. And then came the day when I was just off a little bit and I wasn't even good. And he won, and you'd have thought it was Stadium of Fire all over again.
Have you gone back since, or did he walk off?
No, we've gone back.
Oh, good.
We've gone
goodness.
back. But your dad played it smart.
I know.
Because I knew I could beat him. And your dad's like, I'm good. We're walking it off.
It's terrible.
All right, who's the sorest loser? Who do you think it is, Blaine? Who do you think's the sorest loser for the Haws group?
TJ.
Yeah, I think it's TJ.
Because I.
What does that say about me, guys?
No, here's what I'm saying.
Fiery competitor.
I'm saying that. No, and here's the thing, though. I know Marty well because we, I've covered all of you, and I was here when Marty was here, but they all do not like to lose. You guys all don't like to lose. Tyler probably doesn't like to lose just as bad as you, but Tyler kind of keeps it all in. So I would say we would notice it in TJ the most. Mm-hmm. But I would say it's a 3-way tie. They all hate to lose.
Yeah, you're probably right. There are many times. I mean, you got me thinking way back. But my dad and I, we used to lower the hoop outside, and we'd play one-on-one. And I would run in the house. This was like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, whatever, I'd run in the house just like so mad, like, you know, Mom, like Dad's
Your
the
poor
worst,
mom.
you know, like he's cheating, he's fouling, he's not giving me any calls,
That's awesome.
whatever. And so we had some, it is probably me, that's for sure.
That's all good. That's all good.
Who's the most likely to buy the other two a hamburger?
My dad. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right.
Marty's
He's always taking care of us.
He is.
Blaine's going to hit you up with 5 much more intriguing questions than these. But what's more challenging, playing the game or analyzing the game on live TV?
It's probably more challenging to analyze because when you're in the middle of the game, it's like a lot of it, you're just going. It's like second nature a little bit. I mean, you are analyzing when you're out on the floor. It's like, okay, they're playing like this. This guy's feeling it. We need to make sure that, you know, as a point guard, that's kind of what you're doing. You're making sure that everybody's feeling good. Everybody's, you know, on the same page. And analyzing, it's a lot of fun to see the game from a different perspective, watching it. It's hard to watch as a fan, you know, because so much of it is like, man, rewind that. I want to see how they ran that. I want to see how they got that open shot. It's rarely just, you know, like, oh, sweet. Yeah, like we're rolling or whatever. You know, you're like thinking so much, you know, differently, you know, on like a coach's side a little bit, watching how they get things done.
And when you're playing, you don't have a thing jammed in your ear with someone talking to
And
you.
so that's the weird thing. Somebody's talking to you the whole time you're trying to talk. You're like in the middle of a thought, and somebody says, "Hey, after this, do this."
I
You're
know,
thinking,
exactly.
Did he just?
Yeah.
Did
You
he
want
just
to
say
answer
something to me?
back, but you can't.
You lose your
can't
train
do
of
it,
thought a
right?
little bit
Yeah.
sometimes,
So-
you know.
That's great stuff.
Hey, your wife Lauren's due any day now.
Yeah, so she had our third baby.
Oh, you
Did she have it?
Mm-hmm.
When did you have it?
February 7th. So 15 days early.
So, because we had heard she wasn't due till right now, and I was
Yeah.
thinking, we were saying, is he gonna be able to come on the show? So you're like, oh, you got it 2 weeks in the rearview mirror. How's
Yeah.
it going then?
It's great. Yeah, Lucas J.
Lucas J.
Yeah, so we have a boy and a girl.
How come
and
that
another
wasn't all
boy.
over social media?
I don't know. I at least I haven't really posted on any of my stuff for a long time. I'm pretty.
So you're living your life in private. It's all good.
Yeah, but he's a great little baby, and you know, both mom and baby are doing great. It was a great experience, and he's awesome. He's been a great.
Are you
addition.
taking any shifts at night yet?
A little bit, but it's more my wife. She's taking control and she's doing a great job.
Guys are limited in what they can do.
I
on that
know.
There's
shift.
only so much you can do.
She's kind. She's like, yeah. What are you gonna do? There's not much.
Turn the TV on.
I know
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Brenda used to say, you can go get the baby and bring it over here to me. I was like, oh, crap. Okay.
How is having these two kids, you know, you're going to teach them how to play basketball and whatever else they want to do. But now that your perspective's tweaked because you got two in the house you're responsible for, you and your wife are responsible for. How's it tweaked your perspective on what matters?
Yeah, I mean, I really just having kids, it changes your whole perspective on everything. And people ask me that all the time, like, are you going to push basketball? Are you going to want, you know, Tyson to be a basketball player, or Lucas to be a basketball player, or even MJ to be a basketball player? And I really don't care what they do. If they want to play basketball, it'd be super fun to be able to be a part of their journey in hoops. But I just want them to be passionate about whatever they want to be passionate about. I want them to be good people, and I want to raise them in a way that they, you know, add to society and they know what's important in life. Those things are really important to me because, you know, as I've gotten older, it's, you know, you start to see what you're grateful for that your parents did for you after becoming a parent, and some of the stuff that you don't really realize, you know, that your dad or mom did when you're growing up, and you become a parent and you're like, holy cow, you did all that for me. And I don't, it's sad that it takes you becoming a parent to see all that stuff. But really, I hope I can be like my parents and my dad, that, you know, he was to me. And my dad never pushed basketball on me, but once I told him, look, I want to do this, he was like, all right, we're going to do this together. And I think if I would have told him I'm going to be a golfer, or I'm going to play tennis or whatever, he'd be like, we're going to do this, and he's going to figure it out. And so that's what I hope to be for my kids, and whatever they want to do, I want to be all in on it and help them. And if it's hoops, great. If it's not, you know, I want to be all in on it.
You know what I'm hearing in that answer? that when you're in the backyard playing against your kids, you'll be cheap shotting just like your father cheap shotted
For sure. I'm the same way. I'm like, you're not beating me.
And by the way, you just described what we all call the great payback. And that is the time when your kids have kids and they actually come to you and say, Dad, I'd never realized, like, you were right about this and you're right about that. And then you go, oh. Like, I was hoping someday he might realize that, right?
Yeah.
It's the great payback, but
Totally.
but it's not until you have grandkids that you actually get it.
Yep.
Because
I
it's
agree.
hard to see it when you're in it as the kid. But
Yep.
so you're well into that, and you'll just have to wait to have grandkids to get the payback. Keep doing great stuff. So
Hey, we have 5 questions before we get to these 5, and then we'll get you out of here. Thanks for coming.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me, guys.
We look forward to having you back again. Does this basketball team remind you of your basketball team that COVID took away when you're talking about being able to shoot, having an inside game, and having a lot of momentum like this team does at this time of the year? Do you see similarities between what you had and what this group is?
Totally. Yep. I was just talking to Jake Toulson the other day, and this team shoots the ball, extremely well, and they get a lot of shots off, and that feels very similar to what we had. We had guys, you could go down the list and everybody could shoot the 3, and that's what made us really hard to guard. And that's what makes this team really hard to guard because, one guy cuts and they do so well of moving off the ball that it just opens up shooters all over the place, and everyone can shoot and everyone trusts each other, which is really special. That, coming from a player's perspective, watching this team, it's really special to see just how much these guys trust in each other. Because there are times where someone shoots, an ill-advised shot or whatever. But watching this team, you don't see a lot of, oh man.
and nobody gives them a weird look. It's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, like we'll move on to the next play. And just coming from a player's perspective and playing on so many teams, like, it's really special to see that. And I feel like we had that on our team too, where it was like, yeah, he might have shot that shot. I've shot shots like that, and he makes some of those shots, and there's similarities there too, but it just feels like all these guys trust in each other, and that was the same feeling with that team as well.
Well, that's what it takes, that kind of trust and that kind of talent to win tournament time.
Everything you've done athletically has led up to what's about to happen.
Yeah,
Are
these
you
5
ready?
questions. You're not allowed to think about them, just answer.
Oh gosh, here we go.
So, your favorite sports movie?
My favorite sports movie. Remember the Titans.
There we go.
Classic.
What was Tyler's?
I don't know.
It might have been that.
Might have been that.
It's a great
Or it
one.
might have been a
Yeah,
basketball movie.
it's a great
I'm not
one.
Sure. A lot of us picked Hoosiers.
Yeah, a lot Hoosiers. Somebody just brought Sandlot up the other day. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's a great one.
Yeah.
The Sandlot.
More funny than inspiring.
Yeah, exactly.
We learned a lot of words.
Yeah, Remember the Titans that's phenomenal. Mine too, by the way. Favorite singer or band?
Morgan Wallen.
Oh, so you're a country guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, but I would say he's like my most consistent. I feel like I can listen to him in summer and winter. And
So pre-game, getting in game mode, who'd you listen to then?
I didn't really listen to music pregame. I was never, I tried to stay as loose as I could before games, and I was kind of just chopping it up with the guys and just trying to keep my mind not stressed in the corner tight, trying to just be loose.
Nice. Morgan Wallen. I like Morgan Wallen.
Keith Urban's got some new stuff out. You should check that out.
Yeah,
He's big.
You're a
He's
Keith
big
Urban guy?
Yeah.
And his buddy writes songs for Keith Urban, and so Dave and I got to go sit in some phenomenal seats at Keith's concert in
Wow.
Vegas. So
We know some
very
guys on the
cool.
inside.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Then we're both friends with Brad Paisley's dad, so that's not too bad either.
So you
when they
guys
come
are in.
town.
Yeah,
You
we're
guys
in.
are in that world.
We're in those two worlds.
Yeah, just those two. Those two.
That's
So.
fantastic.
Okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
My favorite breakfast cereal. I've kind of gone away from breakfast. I'm like just a granola guy. I've
He's starting to sound like Kyle Van Noy. It's making me
I've
worried.
kind of gone through this like health journey, and I feel like there's a lot of garbage in some cereals, So I've kind of just have this granola that I go to. I don't even know.
Okay.
Love Crunch or something like that.
So we're just gonna say granola. Kyle Van Noy told us that he won't give his kids breakfast cereal, that they have to have protein smoothies in the morning.
I'll be honest though, we've done this show for 2 years now. I I don't know if we've had granola on
Granola?
the show, on the list.
Let's
Great.
We
Come
just
on, there's
put
got to
it
be a
on.
first for
Let it be
everything.
written,
It's
granola.
on the
I'll send you
list.
guys,
want a
some
sample.
of my
What's
stuff.
it called?
Okay.
I think it's called Love Crunch.
Love Crunch.
I'm gonna look
it's
for
got
Love Crunch.
dark chocolate in there and strawberries and.
I like Cap'n Crunch.
And I'm not
It's a
gonna
little
lie,
bit different than
don't
Cap'n
eat- I don't
Crunch.
eat cereal for breakfast anymore either. But I do eat it before the show every week. I
Damn.
just
So what'd you
had-
have today?
I just had Cinnamon Life before I came. That's my most common.
Cinnamon Life growing up was probably my favorite.
So I had that before I came over. That's my pregame meal. As David can attest, if I eat something that doesn't agree with me, like we have a whole rule about what I'm allowed to eat before games and stuff.
It's involved.
But I have a protein shake and a pre-workout drink, and I work out early in the morning. I don't eat breakfast. So, okay. So your favorite BYU moment, you kind of gave us one, but this doesn't have to be on the basketball floor. This can be anything, and it may be on the basketball floor. As you just think back on your BYU experience, was there a moment in time or something that happened that was just great for you?
Yeah. I feel like I have a lot. On the floor was probably, there was 3 special ones that my senior year when we beat Gonzaga at home on senior night.
That was special for all of us.
I don't think there will ever be a senior night ever that is like that.
Yeah.
Ever again.
No.
On with any team in the country. Like I just think it
Can't
was
possibly
It was
be.
magic.
I think it was magic. That's the right word. And that was a really special, fun game. When we beat St. Mary's and going to have our son after that was really special. That was kind of like
a combo.
Yeah, combo, and beating Houston was a combo. So those 3 on the court, and I guess that St. Mary's one off the floor was those were all really special memories for me.
Very, very cool. Okay, this is a hard one because I don't know if there's many of these, but favorite piece of advice that Tyler ever gave you?
I think for me, growing up, it was more how Ty led by example than anything he ever told me. Ty was somebody that didn't always have the most natural ability in basketball, but he was somebody that in summers I would watch him just get up early, go shoot, come back, rest for a little bit, lift, go shoot again. Like he was consistently in the gym, and to watch him and just his hard work and see where it took him, that was something as a little brother, I'm looking up to him going, man, that's how it's done. And to have that example, I think is really a special thing. And, not everyone has that. And it was really just cool for me to see his hard work. And he's, I say it to this day, like he's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. And he's really good at being bored, doing the same stuff over and over and over and over again. And that's what made him really successful. And so I think above all, that was the biggest thing he did for me, was just lead by example. And this is how it's done, TJ. And, do the same thing.
You're in your basketball world when Jimmermania, lighten it up, and breaks Danny Ainge's scoring record. Now he's number 1. And then here comes your brother. Did you ever think that he would beat Jimmer's scoring record? And the night that he did, what did that mean to you?
I was on my mission when he did.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't actually get to witness it. But yeah, I think Ty's, what he's really good at is he's so consistent. And Ty was never like, Jimmer, it was like all over the place, like 50 points and and it was so fun. But Ty was just like 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. And, when it was 28 or 30, it was just like a quiet 30. Like somehow he got to the line 8 times and he had, 6 fast break layups and 6 mid-range pull-ups. And he just did his job. And, so yeah, I think, it was something that if he could really keep going and be consistent like this, it could happen eventually.
Which is pretty amazing to like. The lesson that you're teaching us tonight is the guy that was relentless with his work ethic, showed up every night and was consistent, ends up being the all-time leading scorer in BYU history. It was a combination of work and consistency and
And nothing really flashy,
and it wasn't
honestly.
flash.
Yeah.
And he stayed healthy, and he played as a freshman.
Yep.
Right?
Isn't part of staying healthy the relentless work ethic that went in, where he was so unbelievably physically sound, always in phenomenal shape, never got out of shape.
Totally. I know. I remember him talking to me about, just because, I was in high school, he's at BYU, and he'd be like, yeah, we ran today. They had us going, and I'm kind of going through the same thing. Quincy had us, doing all sorts of stuff too. And so I'm like, oh man, how was it? Like, you doing all right? And he was like, yeah, I got to the end. I'm like, well, let's go, keep going. What do you got for me? And that's just how Tyler always was. It was like, you can't really wear me out. And, he showed that.
I kind of feel like that's a Haws trait, though. Is that not? Because I've known your dad for a long, long time, and I feel like that's the way he always has been. As we watched you play, that's the way you were. You were relentless. Like, your work ethic, like it mirrored Ty's work ethic. On the floor, nobody could wear you out on the floor. Did that start with your dad's example for both you and Ty? Like, why is that so ingrained in the Haws family?
Yeah, I think definitely my dad said, this is, if you guys want to do this, this is what it's going to take. And so there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know. It's something that, it's year after year doing the same thing and making sure that your body's ready for this stuff. And, I felt like at BYU, I was in great shape and felt like I could go and really to play for a while and play high minutes, you have to be in that type of shape. And,
Nobody shows up and plays their first game and then plays the next 132.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that wasn't all me. I had so many people in my corner that were extremely helpful in making that happen. Rob Ramos, Coach Short, all those guys that are just making sure you're healthy. And it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of people, and you have to be fortunate as well. My first year playing pro, I tore my hamstring. And so, it's like, and I played every game in high school too. Right. So I feel like I hadn't missed a game in a really long time, and I start getting paid and tear my hamstring, it's like, it's super unfortunate. So you have to be grateful. That taught me a valuable lesson too. You have to be grateful every time you step out on the floor, because it is a blessing and it can be taken away at any time. So looking back, I was very fortunate. I had a lot of great people in my corner that helped me stay out on the floor like I did. So it definitely was not just me.
We started out before you were here. We were previewing that you were going to be on the show, and I told everybody the story that I told you, like early this season when I came to talk to you about how every single coach we talked to, and we said, "What's the game plan?" And they said, "Well, the first thing is we got to figure out how to stay in front of TJ Haws. Like, it's impossible to stay in front of him. He's going to break down our defense. We're going to get into rotations. He's going to find guys. He's going to score. He's going to get to the line. So we have to stop TJ Haws." That's what they started with. Everyone. It wasn't, hey, we got to stop Yoli. Like, that was part of it, but it always started with that. What's that like to know that you are in command out there, that you can get by anybody you want to get by? What's that feeling like to know that?
Yeah, well, a lot of it helps when you have great shooters around you and great players around you, because that helps space everything out. That allows you to kind of, be able to play your game a little bit. My dad always said that the best point guards, the best basketball players can get where they want on the floor when they want. And we always talk about getting 2 feet in the paint, and that was always a big deal. And if you can get 2 feet in the paint, good things are going to happen, whether it's a basket to get to the line or, finding somebody for an open shot. One of the things I always prided myself on was like really making the right basketball play. And, guys like Yoli and guys like Jake and, those types of guys allow you to make the right play. It's like, if you're going to help here, Jake's going to make an open shot. If you're going to help here, Yoli's going to get a dunk, whatever. If you're not going to help, I feel like I can shoot this thing. And so having those type of people around you helps with that as well. But that's always one thing that I felt like I did was, I feel like I can make the right play, whatever that is. If you're going to help or if you're going to stay off, I feel like I, can make the right play.
This team, you mentioned earlier in your predictions, BYU's going to play Houston in the semis. They're going to play Iowa State in the championship game. Those are two top defensive teams in the country, and they like to take those guards and go out there, and they're going to pressure Dallin Hall out there, and they're going to whoever's in that game handling the ball is going to feel pressure. BYU has multiple guys. What advice would you give to those guys? How do you handle that kind of pressure with these teams with this much talent and that much quickness covering you 30 feet away from the basket?
Yeah, for me, when guys would do that, it's like, I'm going to make you work all night. And I'm like, if you want to pick me up and you want to do all this, like, let's go, because I'm going to make you work. And you really have to, what these guards do a really great job of is they dictate the pace of the game. You know, they push you to do things that you're not comfortable doing. And if you can make sure that it's like, okay, if you want to play me up super high, this is what this team does really well. If you want to play me up super high and do all this, I'm just going to get off the ball and I'm going to move, and you're going to have to defend me. And I think sometimes when guys bring a lot of pressure on you, guys want to show like, look, I can handle the ball. Like I can get by you and all that stuff. And I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about showing you that I can cross you over or do any of that stuff. I'm going to make you work. And can you be up and have lots of pressure, and then I get off the ball and I'm going to cut hard, and can you still guard me? And I'm going to come off another screen, and I'm just going to make you work. And so with guards that give a lot of pressure, it's like, I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm just going to make you work all night, and I'm going to make you respect that. If you're going to overplay me, I will be cutting backdoor. Like, I'm going to make you work.
Love
Fighting
that.
words. Those
I
are
love
tournament
that.
words.
Make
right
them
there.
work. Make Houston and
words.
Iowa State work. Well, let's focus on Texas Tech first. Actually, Central Florida.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Texas.
let's
But
win.
when we get to those others, let's make them work. I love it. Great advice.
It's
awesome.
hard to imagine BYU basketball as it is today without the Haws brothers and the Haws father. And that certainly means TJ Haws, number 7 all time in scoring. So many categories, made contributions, but you're first class the whole time, and like your brother and like your dad. But you're on the show tonight, so the spotlight's on you. So thank you so much for coming in.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, TJ.
I appreciate
Love
you guys.
having you in.
And by the way, when the tournament's over, we wrote down all your picks.
Yeah.
We'll revisit those.
There we go. We'll see.
Come on, I hope
Hey, we were only
I'm
one
right.
different, and you had Kansas State in that one, and I didn't. But who did I have over Kansas State? Texas. Outside of that, we're all we're
Come on, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun week.
It's a
It's
great
gonna be
week.
fun.
It's the best time of year.
Let Lauren know we apologize
Yeah.
for keeping you a little longer.
Yeah, and then
you guys are great.
we were talking to Tyler a few weeks ago, and we're like, oh, that's right, when he's gonna have a baby. We didn't realize you had it 2 weeks ago.
I know.
That's great news.
So that's awesome news, and glad that everything's going well.
No,
So
thank
give
you
our
guys.
love to the whole family.
Thank you. I appreciate
thanks,
it.
TJ.
You're out of here.
Okay.
TJ Haws. Fantastic. Our podcast will be up tomorrow, and you can listen to the interview all over again as we get ready for the tournament. Next week, Greg Wrubell, Mark Durant will preview the big dance. Craig Cusick will also be here. He's played at the highest level at BYU and also involved now in the Royal Blue Collective. And so we look forward to hearing from Craig. Brian Logan will be in for me because I got a baseball conflict on March 25th.
Yeah.
But, hey, Dave and Garrett Rose will be here. Tennis coach Holly Hessler will be here. That's going to be a big show.
What a lineup for that show, and to have Belo here. Hopefully Belo is still healthy after he tries to cover.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have to cover Austin. They're on the same team.
He's going to be complaining a lot.
Yeah.
And then April 1st, John By the Way is going to be here. That'll be the week before General Conference, and we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah, that's going to be so fun to have John on the show.
Let's fire up some campus notes in our last few minutes together. There's a lot going on. You know what? There's never not a lot going on.
No, it's awesome.
We're in the
isn't that
fall,
awesome?
and then it's the winter, and then it's the spring, and it's just the hits just keep coming.
Would we want it any other way?
No.
So let's get into it. Women's basketball finished the season 16-16, 6-12 in the Big 12. We knew how young they were.
Yeah.
I really love the talent of these young guards. They were undersized a little bit. Lauren Gustin was amazing. Kansas beat BYU in the second round, 77-53. There's a chance that they could still be playing a little bit because there's this new WBIT, and then there's the WNIT tournament. So there's 2 postseason tournaments. They'll find out Sunday if they're in one or the other. I think the choice would be this new WBIT tournament.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, but it's like, how many teams can you get? Because the NCAA tournament is still a big field for the women.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think clearly they'll still be playing, which is great because with a young basketball team, you want to get as much opportunity as you can to get better. So that'll be fun.
Kaylee Woolston got hurt in that Kansas game. I'm not sure how significant it is. it really cost them a chance to beat Kansas. Should need to come back. Cougars lose Lauren Gustin and Kaylee Smiler to graduation. Woolston's going on a mission to Baltimore. But they gained Delaney Gibb, who's one of our favorites because she's been on the show.
She announced on our show, or right after.
Top guard out of Canada. She just scored 44 to lead Raymond High School to the zone championship. 44.
Yeah, she doesn't mess around.
They're ready to win the country. I think the big country, I don't know how they do it in Canada. They get the zone, and then maybe it's
then there's big regionals and then
nationals. But 44, she's a phenomenal player. But they need some size.
Yeah, they got it, and have to replace Lauren Gustin. But they need a couple of bigs, and I know that Amber's looking for that in this recruiting class via either the transfer or to bring somebody new in. So men's volleyball 11-7 right now, 2-4. In league, BYU and Stanford met up. The Cougars split the weekend series at number 7 Stanford, so it's never bad to split with Stanford on the road, right?
No, that's a great rivalry. By the way, Michael says the WBIT is the old WNIT, so maybe there's not 2 consolation tournaments.
I thought I was just reading an article about there being.
I thought there was like 2 or 3.
I thought there was 2 tournaments now.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Sunday.
So we'll figure it out. So they split at number 7 Stanford, which is never a bad deal. This week, BYU at Pepperdine. That's Friday and Saturday. Remember, they do these like Friday night, Saturday night double header nights. Yeah. That's March 22nd and 23rd. The next home match is against Concordia. That's Friday and Saturday, the 29th and 30th of March.
Baseball is 7-7, 1-2 in the Big 12. The Big 12 opener was at West Virginia. The Mountaineers took 2 of 3, but BYU's 4-1 win on Friday is the first Big 12 victory in program history. That's significant. It was important to get at least one on that trip. This week, they're at Utah tomorrow, Tuesday, at 6 Mountain Time on BYU Radio. The Big 12 home openers coming up Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Thursday and Fridays at 6 on ESPN Plus. Gary Scheide and I will be on the call there, as well as Saturday morning at 11:30 Mountain Time on ESPN Plus. Games are also on BYU Radio. Houston's coming in. They just swept Baylor, so it'll be Houston and BYU in the baseball Big 12 home opener.
Yeah, I'm knocking on wood. It's feeling like there's some spring in the air. I know it's supposed to be a little regression of the weather here the next couple of days, but by the time that home opener comes, is there a better place to be than in that stadium and that ballpark, looking at those mountains? It's amazing.
It's going to be good. Hey, softball, I just wanted to get the score. BYU beat Utah Valley 9-7 just a few minutes ago with a walk-off home run from Maddie Bergerano. A walk-off home run for BYU to beat UVU.
There you go.
Over at Gail Miller Field. I think I said that.
Yeah, and the Big 12 opener against Texas Tech, the Red Raiders took 2 of 3 in Provo. BYU picked up their first Big 12 win on Saturday, 10-8. And then Thursday through Saturday, BYU is at number 2 Texas.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's not an easy one.
Oklahoma's number 1. Texas is number 2.
Yeah, this league.
They own national softball.
Yes, they do.
But hey, we go play them.
Yep.
Going to go play them in Austin.
Yeah. We already talked about the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships and covered that earlier. BYU with great success there.
Tennis, BYU men are 11-3. They host number 26 Oklahoma State on Thursday. The women are 11-2, 3-1 in the Big 12.
Yeah, how about
Lost at number 1 Oklahoma State 5-2 over the weekend. I think that was actually in Provo. They're at Iowa State on Thursday, at Kansas on Saturday. And as we mentioned, Coach Holly Hassler will be on the Wise Guys in 2 weeks.
They're having a tremendous start, both men's and women's. So it's fantastic. So.
Okay, let's roll out of here with On This Day.
On this day, March 11th, what happened? 1961 on March 11th.
It was an angry day.
Yeah, the Blackhawks and the Maple Leafs combined for 40 penalties. That's an NHL record. That was at the time.
What the heck? 40 penalties.
Well, is it not still an NHL record?
It said at the time, which leads me to believe that there's probably been
How do you have more than 40 penalties in a hockey game?
I don't know. You get the Kings together.
It was an angry day in 1961.
With the Sharks. 1986, on this day, the NFL adopted the instant replay rule. Oh. Can you imagine the NFL without instant replay?
So many big...
That was much of our life. They didn't have it.
So many big plays have been overturned and gotten right. So
that's crazy.
1997... Paul McCartney becomes Sir Paul McCartney as he's knighted by Queen Elizabeth.
Sir Paul. This is interesting because we were talking to TJ about it. 2020, on this day, COVID-19's declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, and then something else happened.
Yeah, the NBA suspended the season after Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID.
On this day. March 11th. I remember I was anchoring the news at KSL. We broke into programming. Spencer Linton was in doing sports that night. So the two of us announced that the Jazz game had been canceled after Gobert tested positive and that the NBA canceled the season. And then one by one, everything we loved was taken away. Yeah,
that was such a heart-wrenching to hear TJ Haws talk about how that season's postseason. And honestly, I look at all the teams. Danny Ainge's team, Jimmer Fredette's team, that team. Now this team has a chance to write its own history, but that team that got gypped of a postseason, to me, was the next best team with the best opportunity to advance in the NCAA tournament and be an Elite Eight, Final Four type of team.
It was a good squad.
They had everything: leadership, shooting, inside, outside. They had it all. Oh, so, what a shame!
COVID rocked the world. On more serious levels, it certainly rocked the world. But in the everyday stuff, like what we watch on TV with sports and where we go, where we eat, what we do as a family, all that stuff was just turned upside down. And it started with Gobert testing positive, and then every day it was like, well, maybe something one else. Of these, maybe the golf will stay on, and then all of a sudden,
no. And then you remember, Dave, I was working the studio shows for NBC Sports. I was doing the Atlantic 10 tournament from the Barclays Center back east. I was in studio at NBC Studios in Connecticut, and my first show was halftime of the first game. I was going to do the halftime shows and the bridge shows in between games, and we're going to do all the national news and cover the games. And I was sitting in the green room. Before the tip-off, they had announced the players out onto the floor. And then the producer, Sam Flood, came and stuck his head in and said, hey, come in, we're in studio. And Med and I said, what are you talking about? We're not on for like another 40 minutes. He goes, no, just come with me, I'll explain on the walk. And as we were walking down the hall to the studio, he said, we're about to turn into a news agency because for the next 3 hours we have to cover this. They're taking the teams off the floor. All of the rest of the college tournaments in the country are being canceled. The Big East tournaments up down the road here at Madison Square Garden, it's at halftime. They're not coming back out after halftime. College basketball, it's done. And we had to go in and do a news show. And then afterwards, they put me in a limo and they took me to the airport. I was supposed to be there for 4 days. I walked into a JFK with like 3 people in there, flew home on a flight with 2 people on it. It's the craziest broadcasting day of my life. But that's right about this time, that year in 2020s. Yeah. And it changed that year and the next couple of years. It finally feels like we're back to normal.
Yeah. Workforces are still a little strange because everyone stayed home. We sent them free money. But I think what's interesting is that had we known now what we didn't know then, we wouldn't have done any of that. We wouldn't have shut any of those sports down. We wouldn't have closed schools. We wouldn't have turned life upside down. We wouldn't have killed the economy. But we did. And there was fear every day of, am I going to die from this? And some people did. Yeah. Am I going to be able to recover? Some people didn't. But as we look back on the journey we've been, we're like going, why'd we do that? Why'd we do that?
The whole world learned a lot from that, didn't we?
Yeah. So anyway, it started on this day.
Well, let's go to a more positive note. Let's talk about some birthdays on March 11th. We got one big one, 1931. Rupert Murdoch, who owned and founded Fox TV. He changed the NFL when Fox outbid CBS for the NFC in 1993. That changed the game in professional football.
It drove the prices up. Yep. CBS was out. We were the CBS affiliate at the station in Vegas. I was working. One day we had football, and then we didn't. And then the loss of football was so significant that CBS came back and paid like $4 billion for the AFC like 4 years later. It's like, well, we're going to let Fox outbid us here. But then when we come back, we're going to pay up here and it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
But football's the king.
Yeah, it is. And you can thank Rupert Murdoch for some of the great salaries that are being rewarded in all of sports right now. Because they were the start of the arms race in dollars.
And speaking of TV, the March 11th death that's notable, 1971, Philo T. Farnsworth, BYU alum, the father of television.
He was up in like Rigby, Idaho, right?
Yeah.
And has any BYU alum had a bigger impact on society than Philo T. Farnsworth? I mean, I'm sure there's others that we could talk about that would rival. That's a pretty big impact on the world.
It totally is. And it feeds right into our Wise Guys quote of the week from Philo T. Farnsworth.
Absolutely. Philo T. Farnsworth said, "Television is a gift of God, and God will hold those who utilize his divine instrument accountable to him."
So that kind of answers your question.
Wowzer.
On the significance that he saw all those years ago as he developed this.
He knew the impact. I think he had a
technology.
sense of the impact that this thing could have. Unbelievable.
And then it had jumped certainly before he died. I mean, the 70s TV was,
yeah.
but look at where we are today. It's like 500 channels.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
Philo T. Farnsworth passing away on this day in 1971. Thanks to Max Hall, who was fantastic. We're going to see him a week from Friday. He's coming up to play quarterback in the Alumni game on BYU TV on March 22nd at 8 o'clock Eastern, 6 Mountain Time. You and I and the guys will be on the call. Next week, Greg Wrubell, Mark Durant, and Craig Cusick. And how about a special congratulations to Fred and Sydney Warner as they welcome their son, Bo Anthony, into the world this past week. I don't know if we've offered Bo Anthony, but we should.
We should be offering him. That's awesome news. And hey, best of luck to the Cougars in the Big 12 tournament this week. What a great time for college sports. When the basketball tournament starts, March Madness is beginning this week, and we'll all be watching. The selection shows next Sunday as they find out what their seed will be and where they're going. Hopefully, let's say a hopeful 4 seed in Salt Lake City. How would that be?
That would be great. That would be great. Or even a 5 in Salt Lake City. Yeah, anything in Salt Lake City.
We'll be here next Monday to break it all down, the first round opponent, where they're at, all of that. So come back here with us next Monday.
All right. The podcast is up tomorrow. Look for it. Share it with your friends. Again, on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. Like us on YouTube. We want to continue to build that, and we're moving forward. Yeah. And you know what? It was light outside for most of our show today.
Yeah, awesome.
Winter's behind us. Great things are ahead, and this was a fun show tonight.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next week with another great one.
See ya.